Welcome to the Mix Minus podcast. We are here yet again, year number 3 of the Mick Jamcast, the Oscars preview podcast. I can't believe it. Can you believe it's been 3 years, Jayme?
And once again, we are all going to be in some avid discussion or disagreement about our movies this year.
So that was Jayme Alfano Mulhern, Jam, and then we have Tim Castano back.
It's felt more like 35 months, really, than 3 years. But.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Well, it is weird to be a part of something that you can do 3 times, three-peat. It's crazy. 3 years we've done this.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't feel like we have.
And
right?
There's actual people who listen to it.
I know.
No offense to your podcasting. I mean, like, people, like,
quite a bit.
Just plain regular people.
Quite a bit.
I was ill last year, so I apologize.
You did 2 podcasts that year.
I did.
I'm ill this year. He won't let me do any other ones. I'm kind of sequestered.
No, that's not true. Well, tell that to my wife, Melanie, because she feels like she's kept out the whole time.
Yeah, we actually did just send her upstairs.
Yeah, so that's kind of weird. I had a lot of problems with movies this year because of our election, but I did jump in there and I did watch them. But was it more than that? Tim, you're a historical buff on this stuff. Was this not a great Oscar movie year?
Interesting question. I actually think it was an excellent year for films. This is going to be a bit of an inconsistent answer. I do think it was an excellent year for film. So if you had asked me, say, back in June, where a number of movies like Sing Street and The Lobster and a few others had already come out, I'd be like, wow, this is a great year. The quality is very high. And even through the fall and the winter, I was like, oh, a lot of excellent movies out there. But I agree that when I look at what has been nominated for Best Picture and when I reflect on the year, I do feel a little let down, and that I'm not emotionally invested in any film or any film's the outcome at the Academy Awards with any film this year, which is a little unusual for me. So I'm somewhat indifferent, but I do appreciate what they did produce this year.
Isn't it interesting the way having this show we know we're going to do, it makes the watching of the movies leading up to it like so much more fun.
So much more fun, but the pressure's on because I know that Tim is like writing white papers on each movie and I need to up my game and like pay attention to certain things that I may not normally pay attention to watching a regular movie. That being said, I did not think it was a great year for movies. So we may actually agree a little bit on that, Tim.
It really wasn't. I mean, the funny thing, though, is it's really interesting, like in the build-up, and Tim and I work in the same place, so we're always talking about it. It's almost like being on a baseball team or something, and then you get around to February, and it's like, oh, it's back to spring training. We got to train up and do all this, and maybe you don't put that extra effort in, and then you get behind the 8 ball, and then you go, well, they're going to announce the Oscar nominations in 2 weeks. What if I waste one watching the movie? But the whole routine of it is so fun, and now that I have, or I've had one, but now you have a very active toddler, it's been really interesting to see how to get to these movies. I mean, there was like a day where I'm like looking at the times and I'm like, wait, Lion is playing in Parsippany. I can get there. And then my mother-in-law is like, I'll watch Liam and then put him down. So I'm like, okay, I'll go there. I'll go to the Fuddruckers by myself.
Right.
I'll do some work and then I'll go see Lion and then I'll go do this. It really does become like your own mini cottage industry. You were going to movies like 2 times a day with people.
Really? Yeah. Because I felt like I needed to. Last year, you guys made fun of me because I saw all the shorts and foreign films. So I didn't have much to bring to the table for the other stuff. But this time I was like, all right, I got to be a little better. So,
Tim, you've always done this. This must have changed your complexion and what you do about movies, like knowing that you're going to talk about them. And
it does. It definitely does. I found that this year was a little bit more manageable in terms of the pace than the previous 2 years, where I almost drove myself to a breakdown the previous 2 years trying to cram everything in.
I think the first year when I pulled up, you were actually in your car watching one of the movies.
I was watching one of the movies. And
The Judge.
Yes. That's right. And
which I loved.
This year, I felt like a little bit more under control. You
kind of
the game slows down. It's kind of
well, isn't it the thing in anything in life? The first time you do it, you're sort of ignorant to what you don't know. So you just kind of walk in, you're calm. The second year, you have all these expectations you had from the first year, so you just kind of fall down on the job a little bit.
And when the nominations came out, I felt as if they did me some favors. So they made it a more efficient process so that they didn't throw in any films. Like I was worried Sully might get nominated for Best Picture.
Which I saw.
And I got to go see Sully.
Which I saw, right?
Yes, yeah.
I feel like you get something out of any movie you see, though. Like if you did make the cutoff and you happen to take a chance on seeing one, you get something out of it. Like I got a lot out of Sully watching it, and it was neat seeing our area and seeing the whole thing take place in the National Transportation Safety Board scenes where you don't even realize that kind of stuff happens like that. And then I remember I thought Gleason was going to be in the running. It didn't end up, but I was the better for having seen it because it was just so, it floored you.
I only saw it because of you.
Yeah. So it's good to see those. But I know I start each year, I take my Wonder List, which is like a list app, a to-do, honey-do list type deal, but it's shared on different devices and you can share it with people. And each year I have my Oscars movies to see, and I think I had like 24, 25 to start, and it is amazing to cross them out and then see what you saw.
And you were so right, because I remember calling you months ago after I saw Light Between Oceans, which
you were like, I
was like,
what
Alicia
month was
Vikander.
That? It's like October, and you're like getting ready for the Oscars.
Yeah, I was ready. It was like the day after the Oscars came out last year. And I was like, this is great. She's going to win Best Actress. I thought everything about it was wonderful. I read the book and I thought it was good compared to the book. And you were like, no, out too soon. It's not going to be anywhere. I'm like, no, you're wrong. She's going to be up for Best Actress and she's going to win.
Well, isn't that the sign of it? I mean, I know with The Lobster, for instance, that was that director's first English language movie, I believe. And that ended up being quite a good movie. But isn't there something when it comes out that they're almost saying, we think it's an Oscar movie, but this way we won't have that expectation on us.
Historically, yes, they do hold them until December, maybe November. And they'll release them in a few theaters in December and then do the wide release in January to really push them. But that's changed somewhat over the years. I mean, that's why back in 1991, although they awarded it in 92, it was the 91 Oscars, when The Silence of the Lambs won, that was a bit of a surprise because Silence of the Lambs had come out in the spring of 1991 as opposed to later in the year when the other films did. And there are a couple of other examples of that. Crash came out in the spring of 2005, although don't even get me started about Crash and that win. So that seemed to shift a little bit.
I loved that. Did you hate it?
I didn't hate it.
You didn't exalt it to that level.
I was just shocked that it won Best Picture. I was as most people were. Yeah, I joke. I remember watching in 1998, I think it was Leonard Maltin doing a TV show in May. And at that point, we'd had Bulworth out. We had I think, The Horse Whisperer. And there was one, He Got Game. All out. And there was Leonard Maltin interviewing each of the actors, so Denzel Washington, Robert Redford, and Warren Beatty, and he was guaranteeing each of them an Oscar nomination for Best Actor that year. And it was June. I was like, wow, I wonder if Leonard Maltin's correct. And then none of them got nominated. So, historically, they do back-end them to the winter months.
So is that the only one who liked Light Between Oceans?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I'll probably see it at some point. I didn't see it.
You need to, because they were both amazing, better than they've been in anything else, and really, really good. I think that is a snub for this year.
You raise a point, which is what happens as the Oscars approach is I don't see movies I would like to see, and I'm not happy about that because I need to save that slot for something that is nominated.
Right.
So I would like to see Light Between the Oceans. I would like to see American Pastoral. I'd like to see Indignation, but I can't waste my time on those.
Right, because we have the right.
Mm-hmm. Psychology is funny because we were supposed to do this on Sunday. Right now it's Thursday. And by Sunday, I only had one movie left to see, and that was Elle. And the psychology of it, knowing we got moved to Thursday, I go, I'll watch it. And I was going through a thing where I was watching one a day and sometimes 4 or 5 a weekend, but you lose your edge, and I never saw it.
Oh.
I mean, it's crazy. Where do you get your movie news, Tim? Like, how do you stay up to date with like what movies are going to be there? Where do you read your reviews?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I guess I track initial reviews on Entertainment Weekly.
Do you subscribe?
I don't.
I use Gold Derby.
Yeah, I do track on Gold
Derby. And I'm
Derby
really surprised with some of the things that they're saying this year.
But like, movies like before I even realize what's coming. Are you reading the Times and then you see like
I do, yeah. I
do
review? Read the reviews,
do.
but I also read they'll do like the fall preview or the Oscar preview back in August or September to try and
the Breitbart ones are pretty good too, right?
Can't say
just can't let it go.
I will say that, but what's also it is an interesting exercise to go back and look at what they predicted would in fact be in contention, which then is not. So Light Between the Oceans being a good example. That was flagged as a film that could be up for Oscars. There was also Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, which just disappeared very quickly. And a few others like that just never quite make it. One of the great examples, I think, historically looking back, is 1996. Everyone was certain that The Crucible, the film adaptation of The Crucible, was going to sweep the Oscars because you had Nicholas Heitner, who had directed The Madness of King George and done a great job. You had Daniel Day-Lewis in the lead. You had Joan Allen. You had Paul Scofield and Winona Ryder. It just seemed like it was a can't miss. I think Arthur Miller did, in fact, help with the adaptation. And it got 2 nominations. It got, I think, Paul Scofield and Joan Allen, but then that was it.
This year, that was the Warren Beatty movie. Right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
that's the one everyone was like, they it's almost like in sports, a team who jumps out like 20-2, and like they have the pedigree maybe, and but that they're going to come back to the pack, and it kind of jumped it. I've actually found the thing I've fallen on reading each week, because it's just hard with time to read all this stuff. I mean, I don't know how people can subscribe to so much stuff, but I try to read the New Yorker each week, and I feel like they're really good with their movie stuff, like Anthony Lane, right? He's very good. And I kind of feel as though I go into each issue not knowing what the movies are going to be, and then when I read about it, they do such a good job of tying together usually the 2 movies that they talk about that it ends up being really good. The other thing I found, and it was this year especially, I feel like when I looked at Gold Derby after I started getting back into things, I was like, I have no idea about these movies. And that's kind of an interesting thing in this day and age, to have no idea what the movies are about or what you're going to see. And there's some interesting kind of serendipity. Yeah,
I felt that way about several of them that I saw this year.
When I started seeing some of the movies, I remember looking, and this is where we'll start, because we'll start as we normally do with our best pictures, and then we'll whittle our way down from there. La La Land was the one where I remember, I forget which movie I went to see first, or the other key for me each year is finding the pirate site that allows me to watch movies, because each year whoever the powers that be find the pirate site that I watched the year before and shut that sucker down. And the big one was like 14movie.net or something last year for me, or hdmovie14.net. And they still kept it up, but the movies constantly said coming soon. And I went, this is a sham. I was getting worried because I kept looking, and there's all these sites now that are like, oh, sign up for a nice, or register with your information. You'll be fine. It's like, yeah, the first people who find that cache of information, you lead right to the home.
But I love seeing the movies on the big screen.
Oh,
and I think
too.
some of them require the big screen. Tim probably would agree with me at least on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'd much rather, but with our need to see 25 movies in like 3 months.
Exactly.
And then where I have like a 12 to 3 nap time, or 1 to 4 nap time on Saturdays and Sundays, and then you have to decide up against other things. Sometimes those sites come in handy, and I did find mine this year. So that was very, very helpful.
I got a couple of things on iTunes.
Yeah, those are good too. A very good site I came across is called Just Watch, and there's an app that you can get on iOS and Android called Just Watch. And what you do is it'll tell you the most popular movies right now that are available on these streaming sites. And then what you do is you'll hit the movie and it'll tell you all the places it's available. And so sometimes something might be $5 to rent on iTunes.
Okay.
But like today it's $2 to rent on Amazon. So it'll give you those kind of deals. So Just Watch is very good. But the one I kept seeing after I started, because you feel like you're making headway, but when you have 25 things to watch, you're never ahead of it.
You're
just never ahead of it. So the one I kept seeing was La La Land. And I went, what a weird name. And then I start reading up on it and I go, man, it looks like it's going to sweep this thing. How many nominations does it have? Is it something like 14?
Yeah.
I believe so.
And then I'm reading about it and it's like, it's a musical and I'm just throwing up in my mouth a little bit.
I was so not interested in seeing it.
I was not interested at all. But it's the leader of the pack. So you have to see it. The guy made Whiplash, which was a good movie. And so what you have to do, and it's a good lesson in life sometimes, if people say something is quality and enough people see it and it's getting nominated enough, you're going to go see it. You're going to get something out of it. And I went to see it. I actually dropped my son Liam off at your mom and grandmother's house. They watched him, and I went over to the Wayne Lowe's, I think it is.
You went to the Wayne Lowe's by the Willowbrook Mall?
Yep.
Yes.
That's where I would go growing up. I grew up right around the corner.
There you go.
I've probably seen more movies there than anywhere.
They were right around the corner at the in Little Falls there. So I went over there. Yeah, so I went over there and I walked into the theater to see La La Land. I was just kicking and screaming in my head the whole time. I did not want to see it. I had zero excitement to see it. And then the first scene, you go, this is awful. This is what I thought it was.
Awful.
The
first two scenes, I felt like that. And I looked at my girlfriend and I was like, I am definitely picking the next movie because this is like Grease meets High School Musical meets something awful. And I just wanted to get out.
And I was just so afraid because I go, is this thing going to be a 75% musical, 25% story? And luckily, they get that scene out of the way, and then it turned into what I found to be a rather enjoyable movie.
Me too.
Yeah. I thought it was
And I love Ryan Gosling, so I was going to see it because of that. And I love tap dance, so I was going to see it because of that. But usually Emma Stone irks me. Like her lisp just kind of irks me. Yet in this movie, I found it delightful.
Yeah.
And I was just after I got through the first two scenes, which horrified me.
I was uncomfortable.
Oh, God,
and I'm like, does anybody see me look? I feel like I was in like a porn theater or something.
Yeah, like I shouldn't be here, right? Like Pee Wee Herman, something weird's going to happen. But then I'm like tapping my foot. And then I said to my friend, I'm like, I'm kind of digging this. I'm liking this. I kind of, got into it a little bit. And I know like everyone's saying like that's the only movie or maybe one of the only movies that has like a positive, like uplifty, happy kind of feel to it. But there really is a sadness to it.
Big time.
So I was like, it's not really all that happy. Or maybe I'm just a depressed person. So I found the tragic love story in it to be a little sad. But you hated it.
No.
Okay.
I believe, had the opposite experience of the two of you because I went in with high expectations. So I think I'm being too hard on La La Land.
Okay.
My expectations were overly inflated because I was expecting Sid Charisse and Gene Kelly, which is far too high a standard.
So you like the idea of a musical?
We have an interesting relationship, the musical and I, where I like, for instance, I do like a lot of classic ones. When very well done, I do appreciate them. So, for instance, Singing in the Rain, I reference Singing in the Rain, fantastic. I could watch that anytime.
Anytime.
And there are a number of others like that. My favorite musical of all time is 1776, which is not one a lot of people say.
Is that like Hamilton?
It's similar.
It's similar, but it's more traditional. But so I went in with, I think my expectations were too high, and I felt a little let down. Of all the movies, I think that is the one I need to go back and view again to give it another chance because I think I would appreciate it more for what it is. My problems with it were, I know that I agree with you that I did not like the opening number.
Yeah.
I did not like the opening number for perhaps a different reason, though, is that I found that there was not a lot of continuity with the rest of the movie, where it was a bit of a sort of, it led you to believe the movie was going to be a little bit different than it was in terms of style. And so it was like, we're going to get West Side Story and Fame, or you're going to get, but really we were getting the bandwagon. So it was a little bit different.
Thank God we
regard.
got the bandwagon.
I didn't necessarily find the songs to grab me, and there was not really a song I left with, and I'll get to songs in a second, where I left the theater thinking, oh, that's going to stay with me. None of them really did.
I was humming them though, without realizing that I was humming.
Yeah,
I'm like, what am I humming?
And I was not, which is I'll make this point. Of all the snubs this year, the one that kind of surprised me is an unusual one, which is I actually thought Sing Street should have gotten at least one nomination for Song of the Year, and it did not. And those songs I did find were more compelling and did stay with you. So that did get me. I also think, I know the performances are getting some criticism in that they cast actors who could sing as opposed to singers who could act.
Which is kind of neat, though, I think.
Yeah, that was kind of what made it.
It is, but then they
good.
make an error in that then they introduce John Legend. And John Legend it's like bringing Roger Federer to your country club to play tennis.
Very good analogy, yeah.
And
he owned the movie when he
did.
over.
That was a problem.
Yeah.
But they were smart to have Ryan Gosling not do musical stuff in those parts. They had him on par because he looked just at ease doing the keyboard stuff, which I heard people say he didn't know how to play going into this.
No, and I about that song that they play in the concert, which is supposed to be this turning point where she comes to the realization that Ryan Gosling's character has sold out. If you listen to the commercials right now for La La Land, that's the song they play.
That's the one they play. Yes,
that kind of stuck out at me. But I think Emma Stone did a great job. I think she really won me over with her last number, the audition number. I think that's really the heart and soul of the entire movie. And look, everyone was. My criticism, I think it's not it's me. It's so I think my expectations are a little bit too high. I do think it's going to win. I don't see a scenario under which it does not win. But I need to go back and look at it again.
Why did he do a musical? Like, why did the director? Why did he do one? Like, Whiplash was a good movie. It had music elements, but it wasn't a musical. Like, what makes a director decide?
I think it's a challenge.
Going to do it.
I think it's a challenge. I think you develop an appreciation for it at a certain age. I think my take on that, we could have a separate podcast about my view of musicals, is I think it does allow you to, if done properly, really delve into characters and the plot and advance in certain ways that and it enriches the experience more so than you could just through prose. My problem with certain musicals is that the songs themselves actually basically end up conveying plot points that otherwise could have been done more efficiently through just dialogue. I did not think that was the case here, but that's just a criticism I have overall of musicals. I think that it is a challenge. He probably has a personal fondness for it based on his own experience and exposure to film. Maybe he saw Singing in the Rain. I'm sure he did, but I mean, at a certain age where that maybe influenced him, there was probably something about Los Angeles and that experience of being a young artist in Los Angeles that he thought could best be represented and manifested through a musical. It
was neat to see modern day Los Angeles feel almost like 1950s.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I wonder too, with what you're saying there, the storyline, do you think it was weighted with the fact, when you think of the Ryan Gosling character, all he wants is the old time jazz, and he needs to go into this new vehicle begrudgingly in order to get the old time jazz back into the forefront? Is that similar with Damien Chazelle in some ways? Do you think that is almost a statement by him?
Good question.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say no.
You know, I mean, it felt real. Like, his love for the old time jazz was very real. The one thing I'll tell you in that movie, that there's a couple of movies where the moment just like destroys you. One is in Fences, and we'll get to that. And I think we can probably spoil some things in this movie, right? Because it's
people haven't seen it
around all this stuff.
It's too late.
And they've had since the 1950s to see the Fences reveal, right?
Right.
But I think the one that just got me in La La Land was the dinner scene. That scene where everything changed. Anybody who's in a relationship or who's had a relationship, who's had those feelings of this could go any way, and oh my God, maybe we're diverging.
Yeah.
And it was so real. I was like cringing.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh my God, this isn't like a happy-go-lucky musical. Like, why is everybody saying this is like...
And they did such a good job in their acting.
They did such a good job.
You know, and like the food sitting there. And it starts out as, oh my God, he's come home
Yay!
to like be with me.
Right. And then turns into, we're done.
Totally. I thought that was unbelievable. It made me think of Phil Jackson and Jeannie Buss.
Oh.
You know, they were together in LA. Mm-hmm. And then he goes and takes the big job in New York. They can't talk about their professional lives anymore because it's collusion. There's nothing left.
Right.
You must be the only person on earth who has referenced Phil Jackson and Jeannie Buss.
And then they had the tweet that broke it all up. Mm-hmm. The other part of that movie that everyone always talks about, and it was a little weirdly done, I did like the idea about it, is the alternate ending.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that one hit me a lot too, because anybody who listens to this or knows me and knows Melanie, like she has multiple sclerosis. And I remember like, geez, how long have we known each other?
Yeah.
I think like sometime into maybe a year or two into our relationship, when she was diagnosed, she had a dinner with me and said, you know, I totally understand if you just want to leave. And literally that scene is like what happened in my head.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh my God, in like 8 years, I'm going to see some Facebook post or something where she's living life to the fullest and she's with somebody else and she's having,
right.
And, you know, not that I'm competing against that vision, but I said, no, everything's going to be okay. And this was the opposite, where they did break it off, and the imagination of it was their relationship happening, even though it didn't. But man, that was
yeah, it got me.
That was intense. Was that out of place in this movie?
I my unscientific observation though is that depending upon the age of the audience is their response to that ending. So I actually find that the younger you are, the more disappointed you are with the ending. But then if you're older, you just, I think, come to accept it and appreciate it. That's just been my unscientific observation.
I was sad by it, but I think I'm in the older group.
Yeah, when I'm saying younger, I'm talking like teenagers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, because time just goes on when you get older. You're like, man, I'm like...
There is...
And sometimes you do have to do things for your career...
Yep, you have to
that aren't
really
what you want to do in order to advance.
I did read one article that imposed upon it a feminist interpretation of the ending, which is that if you look at the dream sequence, he is giving up his pursuits, and actually she does not. That she gets to continue through hers. Which
correct.
Is,
which, I picked up on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did not, because I'm obtuse. So it's...
Yeah, I mean, there's some things too, you get to an end of a movie and you're like, what time is that? I don't know. But no, it had a lot of beats that were very good, and it didn't overwhelm you with the musical part, even though it made you think it was going to.
Right. That's why you were dreading seeing it.
I felt better for having seen it.
I mean, I gave it a solid B.
Yeah.
The movie theater I saw it in, you get to give a grade and write like what you think about it. And I gave it a solid B or B+. But I left thinking that the Academy always likes people who transform and do these like things. Like clearly they couldn't dance, clearly they couldn't sing, but they did it. So I'm like, they'll probably win because they're changing. They're not just like normal.
And they also like movies about Hollywood. Hollywood likes movies about itself.
They are a little bit narcissistic, yeah.
So. Well, isn't the genius of this movie the way it played to the system? To be 14 nominations, you have to have the song, you have to have the dress, you have to like...
all of it, yeah.
The actor, the actress, they almost played the system to perfection.
Yeah.
To the point where we're going to come out of... I'm seeing the New York Times alert, La La Land wins, a dozen Emmys, and you're going to go, that guy is now going to have all of these Emmys. Did Whiplash win anything? Maybe Best Supporting Actor?
Best Supporting Actor. I think it won sound editing too. It might have.
He's going to come out with all these like, he's going to have like 20 Oscars before you know it,
right.
And it's only going to infuse his career up to the next level.
Right. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
It was a good gamble.
It's a good definitely best director. I can't see someone
favorite.
beating him director-wise.
Well, you also I think you have to look at the makeup of the Academy too. Even though they did change some of the how they skew the voting, which is they do have a lot of older voters. So then traditional films and films that I think harken back to an age that would resonate with them do well.
Again, playing to it. It's a genius.
I think La La Land is probably poised to win Best Picture as a result.
It's a 1 in 5 odds, which I believe means you have to put up 500 to win 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that seems like a major favorite, because the one thing I was shocked about is there any other thoughts on La La Land? I mean, we'll get to actors and stuff, but this is where it makes you realize that, look, we had our experiences with the movies. There were good aspects to all of them, but where are the movies? Like, number 2 right now is Moonlight, and that's a 16-1. So that is an amazing odds. You put up 100 and it wins, you're going to get $1,600. So that means, and that's second.
Don't put your money on it. It was awful.
Why would you say it's awful?
Well, this is one of the movies that I went to not knowing what it was about, not knowing anything about it. And
do you want to hear my insensitive take on it?
I can imagine what your insensitive take.
What is it?
Something relating to,
and I'm not going to be
a prior movie.
I'm not. I feel like Donald Trump today. I'm not a racist.
Here we go.
No, he said that today. I'm not making it up. I've jokingly called it Broke Black Mountain.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I think I actually put that in my, it was, again, the same theater.
What theater is this? They're like keeping notes on these people.
I know. Big Brother is watching, in Montclair. And everyone was like A+. It did such a great job of talking about, you know, the black masculinity thing. You're not supposed to be gay. I'm like, you're not supposed to be gay anywhere. Like, everybody who's gay has a hard time.
Where's our cough button? Where's our cough button?
Am I censored?
No,
is that a bad thing to say?
7 seconds.
So I was just like, really? This is it? This is all you got? Like, I just left very empty, and like, I can't believe that guy is up for Best Supporting Actor.
Well, he was good though.
He was good for 5 minutes.
Well, he wasn't it, but that's a supporting actor. That's the issue I have with this category too.
I have a big problem.
You only feel good about a supporting actor, actress when it's up against a leading man or woman.
Yeah,
because then you truly can see it.
You pair them, yeah. I will say something about a lot of the movies this year. I found the child actor
was the best,
or actress was phenomenal.
Lion,
please, that kid. I mean, I just want to put him in my pocket. Phenomenal. This too, the little kid. Like, the kids were really good, and Manchester. I know I'm all over the place with my ADD, but like,
kids were good.
You know, that kid was like everything. Like, I felt him more than anybody else in the movie. So I feel like all the kids overall, you know, it's like, wow, this is the next generation of the Leonardo DiCaprios and the, you know, whatevers.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were really all good.
Tim?
I thought Moonlight was excellent.
Of course you did.
My sense of it actually grew after seeing it, as opposed to while I was watching it.
Like a fun guy.
I think I can understand why some people maybe have an aversion to it, but I think that those issues can be put aside, and you actually can view it really beyond the fact that it's about homosexuality and it's about homosexuality in the African American community. I found that to be secondary to the core of the movie, which is really about identity and the multiple forces and circumstances that forge a person's identity, and how that can pivot based on just a incident or a moment, and then you can also witness the long-lasting effects of certain relationships over the course of someone's identity. I thought actually it displayed a great deal of courage and bravery on the main character, and a great deal of empathy and forgiveness on the part of both him and the other man with whom he has a relationship at the end. I thought it's beautifully shot, incredibly well performed. As for Best Supporting Actor and Mahershala Ali, I'm always skeptical.
Wow, he did it. I was worried. I was worried. I was looking up before we started tonight the name of the main kid, an actor, because it's spelled Chiron.
Right.
And we learn in media that's Chiron, right? Mm-hmm. But it's Chiron.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. I saw someone say Shy, which is very much his way. Sorry.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about this for Best Supporting Actor. Usually when someone is touted heading into the film, as he was, I go in as a skeptic thinking, okay, how good can this person be? But he blew me away, and to the point about he's only in it for a short period of time, understood, but he leaves an imprint, I think, on every frame of that movie, because he stays with the main character. He is
his girlfriend, wife stays with him.
Yes, he is the guiding
I agree with that.
He becomes him.
He does become him. He sets this tone for the entire film. That's what creates the conflict, which is this, the emblem of masculinity that he is trying to replicate himself. But then at the same time, the fact that it came from a person who just showed him kindness and affection and love, and it was coming from someone from whom you would not expect that, given his background. It was,
right.
I think it was a masterful performance in that regard, because he was in every frame of that movie.
And
I'll give you that, but
you like it now, right? With that, I mean, that's a good description.
That's a really good description, but no. I mean, I don't think you can compare him to the nephew in Manchester. I mean, that freezer scene, I just can't. I could cry right now thinking about it. Just, ugh.
Well, Mahershala Ali, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we said. I feel ridiculous. I feel like I'll be able to pronounce the Indian names in Lion.
Right.
Because this guy he's great. He's coming on big time. First of all, he was in Hidden Figures. Yes. He played the love interest and husband of the one character. He's awesome in House of Cards as Remy Danton. Awesome. And then one I have to see is the new Marvel TV show, Luke Cage. He's very big in that. This actor, when you watch him, you just know he's legit, and he's probably pretty soon to be a leading actor, right?
I'd agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a tremendous actor. The thing I liked with this movie were the many layers. I love seeing usually you'll see 2 layers, just like we did in Lion. But to see 3 different layers in life was something that was really interesting. I also saw, when we talk about you saying this movie's excellent, you didn't like it, you loved Hacksaw Ridge, Tim didn't love it. I took some things from Hacksaw Ridge. I felt it was a little cheesy at times, but I took some things from it. I saw major connections between this movie and Hacksaw Ridge. What is manhood? What is masculinity? The kid walking down the street, getting beat up, getting pestered by kids, and the bullying aspect of that is awful. And then, a lot of times in life, those kids getting bullied become the major players or the major players in life, and the neat thing, the way we see these movies for this podcast, is that we're seeing them in rapid fire. So you're seeing the connections in real time.
Right.
But I saw a major connection with that.
Now, I love, clearly, my movie snacks and all of this. Hacksaw Ridge, the theater was packed. I didn't want to go. I was tired. It was late at night. I think I called you to see if you wanted to go with me. And I couldn't even eat my popcorn. Like, my whole bag was still full at the end of the movie, which, if you know anything about me, that's not the case. And everybody was like in awe about it, like edge of our seats, like phenomenal. And I was like, oh my God, this kid is just adorable. Andrew Garfield, I believe his name is. Mm-hmm. I thought he did such a good job. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to win stuff. And then I looked on Gold Derby, and it's like 6,000 to 1 or something. It's like 80 to 1.
What was it, the movie, the one with Bradley Cooper?
The American Sniper.
American Sniper.
It's like that. It's like this year's that, where like Middle America goes, yeah,
right.
Let's get her done.
But I just feel like, what's the movie? The first 20 minutes, you're like Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. That's like the last hour of this movie.
It's like I feel like it's the whole movie. I was like, Jesus, my stomach was in knots. Like, I was just, and then I was like, Mel Gibson. So they're not going to give it to him because it's Mel Gibson. They're going to, snub it for everything. But I thought it was fantastic. Well done. Really, really good.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty good, and we'll get to that one. The final note I wanted to say on, at least for my part, on Moonlight was the tough part for watching this movie was that two of the people who told me how great it was were gay black men. One being Wesley Morris, who now works at the New York Times, used to work at Grantland. I remember him being on a Bill Simmons podcast where they used to work together at Grantland, and now Bill Simmons has his own deal called The Ringer. And he was saying this back in the summer, I feel like, where he was like, this movie, Moonlight, watch out for it. And then I think Hilton Alls, who writes for The New Yorker, wrote about this. And so for me, I was thinking, boy, this probably like changes their life because somebody's telling their story completely vividly. You know, I mean, they're like, the way I read their reviews and the way they talked about it was almost like, oh my God, this is me. And so it was weird to see it because I think a lot of the critics might almost be coming from that point of view where and I don't remember Brokeback Mountain. I don't remember how that was written about at the time. But I mean, aren't a lot of critics are maybe gay, right? I don't know how true that is, but
well, I consider myself a critic, and I'm not gay.
Well, I mean, like,
right?
You know, MSM, mainstream media.
Yeah, I was like, you know, been there, done that. This is nothing new. Why are we?
Whoa, where? What do you mean nothing new? No. What do you mean nothing new? What other movie had you seen that was like?
What, like Brokeback, or like there's been movies where it's not okay to be gay and it's a struggle, and so I was like, really? This is like, why are you making it about it's not okay in the black community to be gay, but it's okay for everybody else? Because that's not the case.
Well, but they're just telling the story through that vantage,
and also to preempt or backtrack, going into the Oscars this year, because there was a lot of backlash last year that only white people win. And so, you know, I thought, okay, everything's going to be black. All the black people are going to win. And that's going to, do you have to totally edit all that out right now?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
No, it's okay.
So I thought that's what was going to happen.
But then they threw Mel Gibson in.
And then they threw Mel Gibson in. So right. But then I saw Fences, which I thought was the best movie for me of all of it. But I know I
feel like we're drinking out of a water fountain right now.
I'm moving all over the place. Go ahead, Tim. Bring me back in.
Reel us back.
Bring it in.
No, all I'll do is reiterate what I said about Moonlight, which is one, to the point, I do think it definitely registers with individuals who can relate to the experience of the main characters. And none of us here, I think, can comment on that because that has not been our experience.
After Jayme and I just have done so.
No, I mean, comment
on with the mic cord.
But comment, I mean, I don't think we can't minimize what that means for someone who has gone, who I think who can relate to that experience. I don't think we can. So for individuals on that level, yeah, it obviously means more than we will understand. My point earlier was just that even if you push that part aside, I think it actually says a great deal that it has a more universal message about, just as I said, identity, formation of identity, the multiple influences on how that is created, and then the ongoing struggle someone has with that, because that was not something that he carved out his own identity, yes, very much in the image of Mahershala Ali's character, but then still was trying to define himself, and I think that took a great deal of courage. So I think it actually plays, I think, to both audiences. One for whom this really is highly personal, and can't really imagine what that would be like. But yeah, I definitely can appreciate that. But then even beyond that, I think it does have more universal application than just that.
And the final thing I would ask is, how about the difference in the main female characters? His mom, who's supposed to be his mom, is brutal. She's brutal. And is it the drugs? Is it something else? Is it deep in her and she knows her son can't survive in this world? And then against Teresa, the one who's with
warm and welcoming.
And I would say if there's a weakness to Moonlight, I actually found the mother character to be a little too much of a stereotype. I mean, just not a stereotype, but just playing into playing to a character that maybe certain audiences have come to expect, or whatever it might be. But I that was maybe one weakness I saw.
The rent's too damn high. Yeah. No, it's
Tim, we didn't hear your Hacksaw Ridge.
Well, we're coming there. That's so low down on the list. That,
I know, but I just kind of brought that in with my whole.
So let's see here. All right. Well, I guess we could talk about Hacksaw Ridge because I brought up The Connection, even though Lion's after it too. I can say many of the same things I say about The American Sniper. I don't love war movies. I don't believe in war. I don't believe. So to find the valor in it is hard for me because I don't believe in the enterprise of it. But this movie at some point did hook me in. I mean, it was a little. Some of the home front scenes were a little awkward. It was a little weird, and the dad in the movie, he's a major actor, and I feel like he wasn't playing up to his
Hugo Weaving.
The mother, I loved her in 6 Feet Under. Brenda, she was really good in that movie or in that show. It just felt cheesy, and again, maybe the 1950s always feel cheesy, or whatever was it, the 50s or 60s. Or even
40s.
40s, sorry.
World War II.
We're convinced that nobody ever did weird stuff and they all live such nice lives, even though you can almost kill your brother
with a brick.
But that it's a true story. I like the ones that were true. That kind of, well, that's a lie. I didn't like all of the ones that were true, but
well, the saving scene was obviously inspiring, and it's I mean, the fact that it's true is pretty amazing, and what he did. And then when they come to back at the base camp, that wait, why are soldiers coming back?
Right.
And they start to realize the error of their ways, and that not all people are judged on how they can shoot a gun.
Right. And I'm like a hawk. I'm pro gun, pro war, pro all of that. I know you hate that about me. But I was in the theater oh my God, don't pick up the gun. Don't do it. Don't use it. I was
I almost wanted the Rudy music to start playing.
So it was too cheeky for you.
No, I just didn't. There's a part of me that thinks war movies are too easy to do because the story, and we know people can be turned into meat, the way they're shot. They're shot through the head and all this. The redemptive part of it was definitely good. I don't think it should have necessarily been a Best Picture nominee. I think Andrew Garfield was really good. It was fun. It's fun seeing the new renaissance, whereas McConaughey was the last one. Now it's Vince Vaughn. He's showing up in he showed up in True Detective season 2. Now he's in this movie.
Phenomenal, by the way.
He was pretty good. Sam Worthington from what was the movie with the blue people? Green people?
Avatar. Or Smurfs.
Sam Worthington was good. But I feel like this is like Avatar. It's not great actors are making the movie. You know what I mean? The story is the story. Just get in there and play it. But I thought he was good. It hits home again the story of how insane the Japanese were in war. I mean, there's a reason Kamikaze comes from that. The war footage was Saving Private Ryan 2.0. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was insane. But Mel Gibson's son was in the movie, Milo Gibson. He was one of the army guys. But I feel like, to be honest, the real life stuff at the end actually took away from it a little bit. Because is it possible Desmond Doss was a very simple man? If that makes any sense.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
And I feel like Andrew Garfield sort of played it, but he also sort of played. Man, did he got that woman's beautiful. The woman he found at the hospital there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the first half I was just not that into. I didn't buy the father. I was telling Tim, I'm like, am I supposed to hate him? Am I supposed to like him? He's beating the mom, but then he's walking in with a letter to save his son. It all felt very ham-handed, that part. I don't know. What do we take away from it? Do the whole Moonlight spiel on this one.
Yeah, make us like it, since you don't.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I just did not really. First of all, I think Mel Gibson is incredibly talented. Ask anyone who knew me in the 90s. He was it for me.
Right.
I thought he was fantastic. I wish he made movies more frequently because I've enjoyed all of his movies, even Apocalypto. I was at Apocalypto the night it opens.
What makes him good?
Liked him. We'll get to that. But with this one, I just didn't. It didn't really. It just didn't grab me.
Well, you know the story going in too, right? Like you sort of know it's a conscientious objector,
which is There's nothing there's nothing I would say I did not like this about the movie, or I didn't have a strong reaction to it one way or the other. I thought it was well done, very well done. I thought everyone in it did a great job, but I just, for whatever reason, it just left me a little cold.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. 2 against 1 again. All right.
Jayme loved it so much he's calling at 10 p.m.
I did call them on the way home. I just
saw a celebrity.
I was moved. I couldn't eat my popcorn.
Tim
I thought it was great.
He called me about Moonlight.
Oy.
No, I'm just kidding. He didn't call me about that.
But to Mel Gibson about what makes him so great, I think he does. He really. I mean, not. He's an underrated actor. I'll say that. I definitely think he's an underrated actor, and I think he could have been given more work when he was acting more regularly. That probably would have stretched him, and I think he would have delivered. So, especially if you look at a lot of his early work, things that we don't watch today, like there's actually a movie named Tim that he's in, which he's great, and Year of Living Dangerously is terrific.
I loved Forever Young.
Oh, yes.
I love that. And maybe because I was a kid.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Great
I love
movie.
the idea of a guy just being stuck in frozen in a place for all these years, and then he comes to, and then the sad scene where he ages in a week.
Yeah. Ransom. Yeah, I've always liked him. But
as a director, I think he doesn't lose the emotional core when he does sort of larger sweeping set pieces that I think you can actually, someone like James Cameron, for instance, who is credited with, he does work of that scale, and I think Mel Gibson actually does a better job at maintaining the emotional core of his films. So that's why I think he's very skilled as a director.
Why did he do this movie? Do we know?
I could see why he wanted to do it. I think
is there anything everyone always wants to read into? Was it more to do with his renaissance, that he's a conscientious? Everyone always wants to do that.
Well,
want to read
his father was.
I didn't know that.
His father, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't want to miscast his father, but his father, I think it's Sutton Gibson or Hutton Gibson, moved the family to Australia because he objected to the Vietnam War.
Oh.
He did not want his children.
Tim bringing news to the table.
Wait a second. So Mel was not Australian?
He was born in New York, I think either Peekskill or Poughkeepsie. And then he moved his entire family to Australia so that let me preface this by saying everything I share right now could in fact be wrong, but I think you can do that these days, is that his father won a game show and then used the earnings from the game show to relocate his family to Australia, and did so that his sons would not be drafted. That was one story that was told about that transition early at one point. I don't know if that in fact is the case.
That's crazy.
But that is, so it might have, the fact that his father did have that objection, maybe that did. That's why the movie appealed to him.
Yeah. Wow. No, I mean, I came out of it. Okay. I just have a hard time with, your Moonlight is kind of my Hacksaw Ridge.
Right. All right. So we can wipe them both out.
Let's go back to the ones at the start. Manchester by the Sea. This, there's a lot behind this movie that goes into it that you almost have to, I feel like you have to know what's behind it to enjoy it. Is that right? You need to know the whole Kenneth Lonergan story. You have to know that he was kind of handed the director role for this from Matt Damon, who was supposed to do it because he had been blackballed sort of by Hollywood after doing the movie Margaret, I believe. And he took the studio to court because he wanted the ending to be what it was. He wanted the movie to be long, and he just sort of got blackballed. And this was his way back, just as sort of the main character, played by Casey Affleck. He had a different way back, but that was his way back. I found the movie to sort of be, you didn't know what you were dropped into on this movie. And it's a good movie to not be spoiled, and I guess we'll try not to spoil it because that makes a huge deal.
Late. Too bad, right?
Makes a huge deal to the movie. I mean, we could say that just an amazingly awful thing happens to the main character because you're watching it and you're just going, wait, why is he sort of being like a prick to people?
Right.
And then, wait, why are the flashbacks? The whole movie is just a present day thing with flashbacks that carry you up into where we are today. And you're like, wait, oh my God. That first flashback where he comes back from fishing and he's like, oh, hi, honey. Oh my God. How many kids are in this house?
Right.
Michelle Williams. And you're just like, oh no, what's coming?
See, I felt, and the person that I see all my movies with, this was her favorite. She wants it to win Best Picture. She wants Casey Affleck to get Best Actor. I think Casey Affleck is better than his brother. I think he's snubbed a lot. But this, I just felt like it was so much more, and I just left empty. Like, I thought the character development wasn't there.
Was it because it didn't give you like the Hollywood payoff at the end?
No, I didn't need a payoff. And I like, things that are depressing and dark, but I just was like, really? I mean, I just didn't. I mean, yeah, I felt bad for him and all, but I
it makes sense that he's
empty.
It makes sense that he's like just a bottomless pit, though, too.
Yeah, but everybody was a bottomless pit.
No, but I mean him especially, though.
Right. But Michelle Williams, like for her to get a nomination, she said like 2 lines.
Supporting though, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but those 2 lines was like, the beauty of it is the happenstance of why those 2 lines happen, though.
I don't care.
That they're just walking on the street.
I don't care.
You come face to face with the child and...
Yeah, don't care. Didn't feel it.
You're completely heartless. Where's the cough button? Tim. Reel us back in, our feminine.
Reel us back in.
Just kidding.
Tell us how wonderful it is and how I'm wrong. Go ahead.
There's no judgment in this podcasting chamber.
Okay, thank you.
It's like Planet Fitness.
Yeah,
no judgment zone.
There's no judgment.
And there's no free weights either.
No, there's no judgment. It's all subjective. When I left, I actually thought this is a movie that we're going to be watching 50 years from now. And
poor Jayme.
No, I do just because
he holds it and lets you speak.
I know, it's awful.
Sorry.
That doesn't mean I'm right.
Well, no, because it'll be resonant at any point in life.
It will, and we're going to talk a little bit about this when we get to Fences, about how brilliant works of theater don't maybe necessarily translate to the stage. This is something where I think it is so well done and so well crafted, and I actually think I could see this going in the reverse and being translated to the stage. It's that powerful, and would have worked, I think, in that setting.
I might like that better.
Possibly. With Michelle Williams, I do have to disagree. I think she gives a knockout performance, one that just leveled
all the time, or in this particular one?
In this particular one, I think she really just, if not for Viola Davis,
it all comes back to Brokeback Mountain, guys.
If not for Viola Davis, I think Viola Davis is. I mean, I think Michelle Williams deserves the Academy Award. And
as a support, yeah,
as a supporting actress,
she's not the best actress. She's supporting.
I do.
Wait a minute. You both think that Michelle Williams should get...
If not for Viola Davis.
No, I think Viola Davis. For Viola Davis.
I think Viola Davis should.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if not for Viola Davis,
I was going to have to just drop the mic and leave right now if that was the case.
No.
Okay.
Casey Affleck's performance is it's so nuanced.
It's what's not said.
Brilliant. Yeah. Movie. He conveys so much just with his silence, and he's like an echo chamber. He's just an echo chamber. And you can see just how he's been hollowed out by the experience. And I think it's something that we're going to still be talking about, say, 50 years from now.
Well, I think because like what you said, to me, many of the movies this year just like destroyed me limb from limb as a parent. Lion, Hacksaw Ridge, Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah, you had a lot of that.
Fences. I mean, up and down the line, it was just brutal. And I just remember seeing, and you're waiting for what the heck is it? What is it that ruined this guy's life? And when you find out and you're like, I just can't see it. And what they show is enough, but I just can't see it. And then the scene when they go and he's being interviewed by the detectives and they're like, all right, you're free to go. And he's like, what do you mean I'm free to go?
Yeah.
It was an
And
honest,
now
it was an honest mistake.
Right. My mother saw it and she was like, I didn't feel bad for him. It's his own fault. Like she was worse than me. You think I'm heartless. She was like,
I guess it runs in the family. Oh my God. I'm like destroyed. I'm like, I might have to leave this movie. I can't see the rest of this now.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And I was with my parents. I was seeing it.
I would say this is the movie. Oddly enough, as I was watching it, it reminded me, it's in no way similar, to Mystic River when I was watching that for the first time, where I felt like, okay, I'm witnessing something that just because the way the performance is, the script, that this is something that is going to stand the test of time, much like then when I was watching Mystic River, I was thinking of, say, On the Waterfront. And I put Manchester by the Sea. I'm not saying it's on the waterfront because
it's all
that is
on the
one of the
waterfront,
top.
Manchester by the Sea.
It actually is on the waterfront.
Not that it's on the waterfront because that's maybe one of the top 20 greatest American movies ever made. But I put it in that same kind of category that it's going to be that timeless.
Yeah, not me.
So Luke
and I loved Mystic River.
Oh,
that is one of those
Lucas
for me.
Hedges, the kid. He was really good.
Like
now,
why is he not
he is.
high up?
Well, he is. I mean,
no, he's not. He's like 80-1.
Well, who's he going up against though?
Dev Patel and Mashali.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the one thing I want to say, kids don't talk that openly about sex. I'm sorry. That was the one problem.
Yeah, you had a big problem with that.
I mean, come on now. That was a little over the top. Like they're having almost like post-adult discussions about sex as he's trying to have his new guardian keep things cool down with the mom downstairs so he can have sex with like 3 different girls at a time. Maybe kids are doing this, but they're not talking that openly about it.
Yeah, but again, he was talking to his uncle.
Yeah, but I'm saying no, but he with the wit girls too.
Oh yeah,
that's not how that was weird. That was like a weird Kenneth Lonergan thing or something.
I think it might be a little more progressive right now than when we were that young.
I don't know. That'd be crazy. In Manchester? Where is Manchester? Is that Massachusetts or is that
Massachusetts?
Massachusetts.
Now then again, I do say, because did you see 20th Century Women?
No. Wow.
They're quite open about sex. And that was like the 60s, I think, or 80s. That was the 80s. So that was quite.
You've got your
open.
decades off tonight.
That was 80s. Yeah. I mean, what is time really? Anyway, and then the mom was weird. The Gretchen Mol character, that was so bizarre. With the Matthew Broderick random cameo. Playing like this is too much for your mom. You feel really bad for the kid. But I mean, obviously the moment we're going to see on the Oscars is Casey Affleck just happening to walk into Michelle Williams. And that's life right there. The happenstance of you think about how will I deal with this moment if I ever have to be the person. And then it just happens and there's nothing that can be said. No matter he can't say anything to make it better. He doesn't want to. He wants to feel all of the pain of having that happen.
Forever.
And she wants to let him off the hook. He doesn't want to be let off the hook, just like with the detectives. Right. Just like when he tried to take his life. He doesn't want to be let off the hook. And I just think that that was a tough one. Hidden Figures. Again, this is where it shows you this should not be a best picture in most years, right, Tim?
I'm torn on Hidden Figures.
I'm letting Tim go first this time.
I'm torn on Hidden Figures because I saw it as an obligation since it was nominated.
Right.
That's not to say I was going to avoid it, but obviously I was motivated because it received the nomination. I did not go in with high expectations, but I really, really enjoyed it. And I don't know if I can say anything more than that other than just I really enjoyed it. I it's funny because with Hacksaw Ridge, there's nothing I can point to say I criticize this if they did that differently. Kind of the same way with Hidden Figures, where there's nothing to criticize. I thought they did
it was like candy.
A very, very good job. And I think when we've seen enough of movies like this where we suspend our understanding of reality in a sense, and know that they just stitched this together, different vignettes and different and manipulated it in a way to create a more compelling narrative. So you acknowledge that going into it and understand, okay, this can't be exactly how it happened. But even so, I just found it really enjoyable.
And if there is quite some truth in it, then that's something. The one thing I was taking from it, especially in this time of just divisiveness, we just don't have things like this right now that bring everybody together. The space race brought every American together.
It goes back to last year and The Martian, where I made the point that it's in ethics, we always, the example is always given of, nations against nations but if you actually had an intergalactic battle, then that would unite the entire world as one species. And kind of what you're saying there is that this did unite the nation.
And that was one that I surprisingly enjoyed, The Martian. This Hidden Figures, I think I went into this with high hopes because I was like, yes, these women, NASA, it's all this. And I was like, oh my God, this is so overdone. This is like, stop it. Like, just stop it. I felt like they were giving me too much where Manchester didn't give me enough. And Octavia Spencer, I could watch her all day. Like, I love everything about her. And she's in like 100 movies. Like, does she ever take a day off? Like, I feel like every preview I see, she's in it, or she's in a lot. And I love her, but, oh God, I just was like, I feel like they just tried too hard.
Well, they did. It was Disney-fied a little bit, and I think it sort of paved over the African American experience a little bit. Like, we've come to expect confrontations to be these terrible affairs where people are going to get like Oprah'd on the Selma Bridge, you know?
Right.
And like even the scene in the beginning when the cop pulls them over, you're like, oh, this is going to be so bad. Like, you're just expecting it to be so bad. And then they explain themselves, and he's like, all right, let me give you a cavalry down there.
When I watched it, I thought, this is a movie my parents would love.
Yeah.
And take that for what it's
worth.
In
like 1980.
Yeah, they would have loved to see this. And that's its audience, and I think it did an excellent job of delivering to that audience. And I just enjoyed it. I mean, it's almost my critique stops there. It's like I enjoyed it.
Right. It's hard to it was something that got you through. You felt good. Kevin Costner, I thought was good. Mm-hmm.
He was excellent.
He's had a little bit of a tough couple of years, right? I mean, he held it together. Whenever he's playing a character from the past, he always kind of fits in. And I like the idea that he's not a freedom fighter, but he wants to get the job done.
Right.
And through that, he almost becomes one. I thought it was funny. They called them computers, the people. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I'm also, anytime I see a space movie from the past, it's like the fact that people had faith in themselves to get in a spaceship, and that the people behind it had faith in the technology of the time to send people to space.
Right.
And you're
the person going into space is putting all their trust in these people.
Which raises a question. I wanted to look this up after I saw it, and I didn't. I can look it up later. Is if John Glenn got to see the movie before he passed away.
Right.
Yeah, like that was interesting how much they went out of their way to show you how nice he was.
Yeah.
With the African Americans on the side where he went over and he was all nice. And I guess
that wasn't because he died, because it was obviously done before then. So that was, you would think true.
Well, it's interesting the way, I guess you are just a product of your time. You don't know that technology is coming in the future, but whenever they say like the computing power, not even in our smartphones, Tim's smartphone, the computing power in that is like 100 times the computing power of the entire data center that sent people to space. Right. And you're just like, oh my God. And then when they're breaking through like the zone where you could fire up, and it's
and you're like holding your breath. Like, are they making it?
Doing? Yeah. I just don't get it. The other interesting thing I think seeing in this movie, when you see TV actor, you see like Jim Parsons, right? And then you see him play that role. He was the boss of,
yes.
Which character was that? That was, who's the actress?
Taraji P. Henson.
Thank you. He's her boss. And then you go, boy, he's in a movie. He's never in movies. And why is he never in movies? Because he makes $1 million per episode on The Big Bang Theory. Why would you be in movies?
Why would you be in movies?
He
right.
makes $24 million a year to be on a half-hour a week sitcom. That's half of the year. To the same effect, Florence Foster Jenkins, the Simon Helberg character, the pianist, he makes $800,000 an episode on Big Bang Theory. It's unbelievable. I mean, that's why you wonder where these. Oh, sorry, get Tim a water. That's why you wonder where these people are. It's like, why aren't they in movies? It's like because they're just doing fine.
Can I back up 1 second?
Yeah. But can you say pianist on a podcast?
I think so.
Okay.
We said Brokeback Mountain.
I didn't. You did. You're talking about like the characters and how you see them, like Vince Vaughn in
Hacksaw.
I was like, okay, really? Is this a comedy? Like, what am I supposed to get from Vince Vaughn?
I got that past me by seeing True Detective.
And I loved True Detective, and that's what helped me.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And I love everything about Vince Vaughn. Everything. But I was like, really?
This pianist?
Especially. But I was like, you shouldn't be drinking during a podcast.
I'm not.
Yeah, in the beginning, I was like, I don't know about this. Like, this is like a heavy kind of thing. Like, and you're not all that heavy. But he brought me back in because I love him. So that was just one thing I wanted to say about him.
If it's tasteful, the comedy is perfect in a movie like that. Like, his funniest moment was when he was wounded. He's getting dragged out and he's just shooting.
Yeah.
Tim also hated the Japanese ending, that weird thing where it was like there's some preoccupation with that.
I just felt as if that just seemed
agreed to like
just out of nowhere, where they don't give you any window into this character whatsoever until he's getting his head chopped off.
In slow motion.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what just happened? Is this like...
It just didn't fit with the rest of the movie.
Is this the 1300s? Or is this...
So I didn't know if there were some pieces that were left on the cutting room floor just because they had to edit down.
Yeah.
And we learned more about that gentleman. Or if that was just... They couldn't help themselves and had to show like some exotic ritualistic suicide. But that just struck me as like, where is this coming from?
Yeah, where did that come from? Yeah, even I got that. Yeah. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to go back to Hacksaw.
No, it's totally fine because I forgot about that. That was insane. And then like the scene where they're like they have the white flags, and then they just throw.
Yes.
Oh my god! And then
why didn't you guys like that movie?
And because the next second Desmond Doss is doing a Matrix 360-degree kick, kicking the grenade back at the Japanese, and you're like, I got this. It's like
right.
Matrix. It was like, what the hell's going on? Next movie, Arrival. This was an emotional wreck of a movie. The night you called about Hacksaw Ridge, you ruined our ability to watch Arrival.
Yes, because I talked to you for 45 minutes.
It was like 40 minutes of how great this movie is. As we just pilloried it. But I remember I texted Tim and I said, is Arrival scary? And he said, no. Because Melanie was like, we can't watch something after like 9:30 if there's something scary. And it's completely not scary, but it's like unbelievably emotional. And I would ask you both, would you be willing to know the future if you don't like what it means to you personally? Jayme?
I did not see the movie.
Oh my God. Well, answer the question.
But I will answer the question. And yes, I think I would. And now I'll see the movie and then answer the question.
Now that Tim's seen the movie, Tim.
I have seen my future and it doesn't look good. So I'm going to answer no. I'm living my future. I mean, Arrival, it of all the movies that I think nominated for Best Picture, I think that is the one that raises the most questions with you as you leave it, and that you start to think about, kind of like Matt just did, which is, if you knew the future. It definitely it leaves you with a lot of questions about even what it means to be a parent if you're not a parent, yes. And understanding the potential pain that would be involved in that process, and would you still be open to it? Because essentially, I mean, the choice she's making is a choice that anyone makes when he or she becomes a parent, which is you are opening yourself up to an experience that will deliver an infinite amount of sorrow. I mean, joy at the same time, but and still being open to it. It's in some ways a very affirmative movie because at the end of it, it's about a person saying yes to life, and it's kind of it magnifies the choice that every person makes in a sense, where it's like, well, we are just we are just saying yes to whatever comes our way. I mean, she does have clear insight into it, but nevertheless, she still wants to go ahead with it, which is, I think,
did she have a choice though? That's the part I didn't understand. Like,
I think she did. Yeah,
it's like Back to the Future though. Chicken or the egg, with history and knowing the future and knowing the past. When all the things happen that tell her how to save the world in the present, like, is time just a continuous loop in those things? Like, did they do it? Here's the problem I had with it. We watched it over 2 nights. The first night I was in and out of sleep. But am I wrong that the movie kind of felt like a daze too?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It does.
So is it just that you have to trust in the fact that she was able to use the future, which was based on her doing something in the moment that she didn't know she was doing yet, to get that? Like, what came first? Does that make any sense?
No, I know what yeah. It does play with you a little bit in terms of I think maybe we've all had these experiences, whether it be some sensation of deja vu or whatever it might be, where how we're interpreting the present is influenced by the future or the past.
Isn't that affirming when that happens?
It is. So what I liked about the movie a lot is that, other than the reasons I just said, that it leaves you with sort of an affirmative message, even though you are embracing a mixed bag and a bargain that maybe you just aren't really in for. But what I like about it is that they could have stopped short from making such a powerful movie. They could have made, gone 80% of the way and made a intriguing movie, but they pushed the boundaries and made like a movie that walloped you emotionally.
They really did. Was this our first year where 2 French names are in the Best Picture category? Because I think Chazelle and what's his name, Villeneuve or something like
right.
that. Amy Adams was really good in this. Was she better in Nocturnal Animals though?
What is she up for?
She's not up for anything.
She's not in this movie?
Yes, she is.
No, she's not.
Really?
Are you sure?
I am sure.
You are sure about everything, so
she...
I thought she was...
Oh, yes, he's right.
Something.
I just did a search on the... wow, I feel... that stinks for her, because she tried to jam in with 2 movies.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if she should have been in for... Arrival.
She could have been for either one, and she would have deserved it.
But Nocturnal Animals is in for something.
It's at best supporting actor.
For Michael Shannon.
Oh.
She was really... And it showed like her range across the 2 movies. She looks a little like Amy Schumer, too.
I have no comment on that.
Wow.
Nor I don't.
Because you agree with it?
No, I don't. I've never thought. If you want to talk about Nocturnal Animals, if there is a movie I think that belongs in the Best Picture race, I think it is Nocturnal Animals.
That movie affected you. We will get to that. What was Forrest Whitaker's accent? Oh, you didn't see it. What the hell was that? It was like it was Boston. Is that how he speaks? And were they trying to go for something there? What were they trying to do? Was that not the worst accent I've ever heard?
Dialect. I don't know.
I also think the guy who played General Shang is the perfect villain character. I feel bad for that guy in real life because when he walks down the street, he just looks villainous.
Wow, that's really something
he
to
does.
say
He was
about
in
somebody.
24. He was the one who put...
People say it about me.
He put Jack Bauer on that ship and tortured him. I mean, that's how he looks. Yeah, I thought it was a very good movie. The Jeremy Renner scene, he's a weird guy. But the scene where he's explaining where he's updating everyone like halfway through the movie on where the different groups who are interacting with these ships have gotten, felt like an Apple commercial to me. The way he was speaking about it and then like the little charts and graphics popping up. Another one that hit me hard as a parent was Lion. Thinking of that little boy, he didn't even know his own name. He didn't know where he was from.
Oh.
that it was a true story. That thing, he was better too. Like you said, the young actor was better than Dev Patel.
Yeah.
I feel like this was and Dev Patel, I was shocked, is still only 26, because I was going to say this feels like a lifetime.
Really?
This feels like a lifetime achievement award,
right?
For Dev Patel. He always seems like too earnest in some of his roles, like this one. And then Rooney Mara showing up in this movie was weird. Nicole Kidman sneaking in a supporting.
By the way,
role.
I like Nicole Kidman. Awful.
It was not. It was
the hair, everything was just flat for me with her. But I loved the movie. I loved Dev Patel. The little boy, my heart
gut fell out. Yeah, that was just awful. And all the scenes in he was in what was it? Calcutta? Is that where he went? No, where'd he go? What was the main city he went to? You saw it, right?
I did.
Yeah, but I guess it didn't affect you that much.
No, it did.
No, I know. I'm kidding.
He'll rip us apart now and tell us why it was a horrible movie.
It was not a horrible movie. I was going to say that sometimes I object to films that just manipulate you so much emotionally.
Especially with India. India's been manipulated enough by Empire.
But I would say that sometimes you actually like being manipulated by a movie emotionally, and that was the case here. That which is not easy to do, though, that they're able to do that and do so in a way that is, just still very, very well done. And I did like Nicole Kidman's performance. I think.
Why?
Really?
No, why? I actually wrote in my notes, what did Nicole Kidman do here? Is this a participation nomination?
Wow, 2 against 1 against Tim. Interesting.
No, I'm ready to be. I just didn't. Anyone, I think, could have done it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that she was very. Maybe there wasn't space for her to be unbelievable.
I thought because it was Australia.
Well, anything with Australia, she's in. Remember that stupid movie Australia?
Yeah.
Where they're like Hugh Jackman. Let's throw everybody who's an Aussie in this thing, and they'll win something. Melanie and I actually saw it before we knew good movies. Sorry.
The scene where Dev Patel's character comes to visit her, and she seems like she's obviously affected by what's going on with her other adopted son, and she explains to him the motivation for adopting the two of them together. That's what really stayed with me. I think that's what won me over. That she was just such a strong character, because the movie is as much about it. Primarily, it's about. Overwhelmingly, it's about the emotional journey of the child and finding his mother, but it's also about her journey. And I think she did a great job of portraying and conveying that journey, and especially and you can see it's painful for her. And I think she does a good job of holding, it in some ways it is a selfless performance, and in the same way that the character herself is selfless.
And it was good that she let him know that it was a choice for her.
Yes.
Not that.
And
is it crazy to say the husband was better?
The husband was terrific.
Much better.
Yeah.
He was great. But I did think that was as the movie goes on and you get to the point where he is about to set out on the journey, I feel like they almost like catch up to each other in terms of where they are in their performances and where their character growth is. And it's what could have been, and I feel this way about one of the Best Actress nominees as well, what could have been a fairly routine role that another actor or actress could have just played straight or not really enriched in any way or given much depth to. I felt she really did a good job of doing that.
Maybe she's hurt. Maybe she's hurt by being Nicole Kidman. It's like throwing Kevin Durant on the Warriors. It's like, did we need that?
You always bring it back to sports.
Oh, you gotta, right?
We'll give her credit too, because it's not easy for an actor or actress who is a lead to then transition into supporting roles, and she's done a good job of that over the last few years. She has played supporting roles very, very well. The
movie was almost like an Economist article, where it's like Britain talking about India, talking about Australia, coming back to the one thing I had an issue with when you reach the credits. Why did they change the story around? why did they make it look like it was only his journey, him going back home, when you saw the credits and the mom was there with him going into the village? Do you see that? At the very, after the movie, when the credits started rolling, and they actually showed the real thing happening.
Yeah.
That looked like the Nicole Kidman character being with him, going into the village.
Yes.
Them getting out of a car with a film crew.
Yeah.
I mean, was that, I don't know. I guess I got to read into it. But, I mean, it made your heart race, though, watching that part. You know, he settled in, and then he walks in, and then the old guy's like, you know, you've been gone like 30 years, but I'm just going to not really say much.
I'm just going to bring you to your mother,
who
I just happen to know where she is.
And the fascinating thing of the brother dying that night.
Oh, my God, that killed me.
You know?
That killed me.
So, and just the weird happenstance. But, yeah, everything about the scene in the major city was just awful. Was that woman faking it? Being like, you know, a poor woman, the one who took him in? Was she faking that? Because then she's all made up and...
Oh, yeah. I thought there was some, like, dirty, like, sex thing going on.
No, and what is up with that city? Maybe I shouldn't say it's Calcutta, because it seems like everyone is like everyone's like a 35 to 45-year-old sex starved for kids.
Pedophiles, yeah.
You know, that was...
And that the young child knew enough to get out.
Yeah.
To get out of that.
It was heartbreaking.
Yeah. So many parts were heartbreaking.
Such a hard movie to watch like that. Fences was hard as well. I was watching that movie, and I felt like the first 45 minutes to an hour, you're kind of just like, where is the thing that makes this a Best Picture? I understand it's this great play and all that, and Denzel Washington's in it, and Viola Davis, and Bubba Gump. But then the guy from Playmakers, remember, that was like the first time I've seen that guy since that role. And you're just kind of watching it, and the dialogue is really weird. Everything's N-word. And then the Bono character, that famous actor, their dialogue's weird and like fast, and it's almost like they're living a written word world. Like they're living with a script. And then the moment where Bono's just like, you got to go in and tell her, and you're like, oh, what's he going to tell her? And then he just walks in and tells her, and the bottom drops out on that movie. I feel like it was a gut punch to marriage and companionship. And then on top of it, him not being somebody who's up to the ability. Oh my God. And then her taking the call.
I can't with the call. Yeah.
The call. And like, he knows what's going on. She still gets up and takes the call.
Yeah. It was, for me, this was by far heads and shoulders above everything else.
Really? Even Hacksaw Ridge?
Even Hacksaw Ridge. I hate you. I love Viola and I love Denzel. That being said, it had me from the first scene. Like, the monologues were like crazy. And yeah, I get it. They know the story, and we all know the story. And
I didn't know it. That's what was good about for me. I didn't know the plot.
Oh, okay. And that people are like, well, they've been on, Broadway with it, so who really cares? They're just doing what they did already. But they did a goddamn good job. I mean, I was like, life is hard. Life is just hard. And Denzel really made you feel like his character, like he just works all week to come home and have his beer, talk with his buddies, and
I love Friday night coming home and having a drink.
Yes.
Even though it's Thursday and I'm having one. But I love coming home on Friday night and just like the world is yours for 2 days.
Yeah. And Viola Davis, I feel like her acting ability has just stepped up so much in the past. Like even the last year's episodes of How to Get Away with Murder. I was like stunned at her acting ability, and like every scene, like I felt like I was in Denzel's body when he was talking. I felt like I was in Viola Davis's when she was talking. Like I just felt each character, and I thought it was so well done. And Tim is giving me the evil eye.
No, because what he's going to say, the character, the actors carried it, but it was limited by being in a movie. Right?
As I said, I believe they did as good a job as they could have done with the source material. So they could not. I don't think anyone could make a better film out of Fences, and it was a terrific film.
Denzel's just.
And he directed it too.
You can't touch it. Like he's
perfection in everything.
And
he owns
Pop
stuff.
Quiz, who is the first actor to play that role on Broadway.
Oh, James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones.
Yeah, so apparently I didn't see it, but was apparently that was just one of those performances that
I don't know him
we're all
young.
going to be talking about for
like even in Field of Dreams, he felt old.
But
he's always old.
My thoughts on Fences is yes, they did as good a job as they possibly could have done, but they are somewhat limited by the strength of the source material. The source material almost overpowers the film, and I think I explained this a little bit. Where my thoughts on this is that there are certain plays that don't necessarily translate as well to film. That doesn't mean they don't make good films. They make good films, but they're not as transcendent as the plays are. And I feel like that's kind of the case here. I think when you could have almost any discussion about the 10 greatest plays in American theater, and I think Fences will always find its way in there. It's that important. And I just felt as if one thing they did lose a little bit in the film, and I was thinking about this recently, is there's a claustrophobic element because obviously Fences, it's a metaphor, and on stage you do see the fence itself. Illustrates that point a little more strongly. Where here, it's even though they do keep it rather in a tight setting, it is still more expansive than it would be on stage. So you lose a little bit of the metaphor, and it's in that setting. But I just feel like the play is just, as I said, the play almost overpowers the movie. That they did as great a job as they possibly could have done. The performances are outstanding. It's terrific, but the film just may be almost too small of a genre or too small of a medium for this play.
And you've seen the play?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for me, I never saw it. I didn't know the story, so I was almost experiencing it like the play on training wheels in a way. And so it really.
What
worked
are the odds for it for Best Picture? I'd be thrilled if it won Best Picture.
It's not gonna. It's 100 to 1.
All right, I'm going to take that bet.
That's 8th out of 9 on the list.
I don't care. I thought it was brilliant.
No, it is. I mean, the story's great. And look, to exalt a play to the screen, it gets a lot more people in the door to watch it, and maybe it gets more people to watch the play itself. But Viola Davis was absolutely great.
Yeah, and I have a problem. Like, I know there's a formula about how they pick who gets nominated into what, but I feel like her performance should be up against Natalie Portman, not.
And I thought that
like Michelle Williams, 2 lines. Sorry, Tim, I know you loved her, but
no, she was good. But
like she was so much more a part of the movie and a part of balancing against Denzel. That why is she in supporting?
Yeah, well, she was the emotional fabric. I mean, well, isn't there a game to that too? Like you want to put someone into a category that they might actually get nominated for, right? Like if they put her into Best Actress, she wouldn't even be in it. Whereas if you put her in supporting, she actually gets in, and then you have the chance to win.
Yeah,
kind of like how La La Land just.
Or there's an example of Gangs of New York when it was originally made. They had that geared for Daniel Day-Lewis to be in Best Supporting Actor, not Best Actor.
Oh,
but he just overtook the movie. So
yeah, it's a little bit of a.
Like, I feel like the other people up for Best Supporting Actress, like, aren't even going to go that night. Like, clearly she's winning. Like, there's no discussion.
Well, it was a good party, though. So you still go.
So I guess you still go.
Yeah, I thought she was just so good because Denzel Washington, his character was sort of manipulative, but not. A man can't just take care of a baby by himself. And unfortunately, you lose the woman who's supposed to be the mother. And that scene where he's just walking in the house with the baby, and it's like he's sitting on the stoop going on the back step, just like, I'm going to need someone to help take care of you, you know. And then he said to her, like, these are grown people problems. Like, this isn't this baby's fault. And as awful as it was for him to have had a baby with another person, she completely agreed.
Yeah.
And then at the end, for him to go, and she's raising this daughter who seems great. And then I also thought the son, Corey, his career was sort of ruined by the Denzel character, because he wanted to be a football player. It looked like he could have been a football player. And because he can't hold a job, he's off the football team. He ends up in another system, which is the military. But then when he comes home for the funeral, and the girl doesn't know any better, it's grown people problems. And you could see he has like the wariness about her, because it's not his real sister, but she doesn't know better. And then they're coming together in that scene.
What is the background on that, Tim? Do you know about say your point again?
The kid, having the daughter and
the Denzel's character not supporting the son in a sports career. Yep. Was that because he didn't want the son to be better than him? Was it because
the system did him wrong?
Yeah, the system did bitterness.
Was it bitter?
Yeah.
Was it?
I think part of the point. Yeah, he is just someone who felt as if life did not treat him well, and he's just resentful of that. And I think that's part of what you don't know. Is he being protective and doesn't want his son to necessarily fall prey to the same prejudice that he did, or is he jealous? And
right. So it's like, was he holding him back because he's bitter, or was the kid really not that good and he didn't want him to be upset? I didn't know.
I think it's more, and the idea is
fences. He keeps building the fence, which is,
again, going back to the metaphor of the play, which you do lose a little bit in the movie, which is like he's just focused on building it and keeps building it, and that's what his life is about. It's about building up barriers to the outside, and it's about containing himself and containing his world and making his world as small as he could. And keeping out some of the forces that he believed had negatively influenced him, because then you can see he's blaming racism, but then others, like his wife points out, it wasn't racism, it was age.
Right.
But he, in his mind, it still was racism that kept him out, and he's just carrying that with him, and he is passing that on to his own children. He can't. His entire life is imbued with that, so he can't escape it.
I just thought it was brilliant.
That scene where he's trying to explain himself too, and he's keeping himself on the higher ground. She just makes me feel things I haven't felt. I'm supposed to be here.
Right.
You don't think I want to do this? It's like,
oh God, yeah, it just kicks you right in the stomach. From the first words out of their mouths, I was edge of my seat. I thought it was brilliant.
I think if you don't know the play, it's an interesting experience.
Mm-hmm.
To come in contact with the storyline and the way it just falls into the dialogue, like the way the movie starts and they're just walking, him and Bono. I love Bono.
Love Bono.
He's great. Hey, Bono. Hey!
It's just like working guys.
Handword.
Yeah.
Handword. Oh, God.
But that's how it is.
Yeah, I guess so. This is insane. But 9 movies in, we are on our last Best Picture. Hell or High Water.
Loved it.
Didn't say it.
Oh my God. God. I was just about to say there are 2 movies other than the Trump presidency that made me think, oh my God, I better get a gun. Hell or High Water.
I can give you one of mine.
And Nocturnal Animals. Well, I'm waiting to see if Trump just gets impeached.
Oh my God. You got to let it go.
Pence. Let's get Pence.
Just let it go.
Get Pence in there.
Just let it go. Let go, let God.
Hell or High Water. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me based on who the person who wrote it was. It's the same guy who did Sicario, and he's written many Sons of Anarchy episodes. It was a really good movie, and I think it gave you a window into a part of the country that we automatically just think is dumber than us. And in reality, they have almost a homespun wisdom to them. It's West Texas. I don't know how true the dialogue is, but it's got to be pretty true. I mean, they're human beings trying to get better in life. Yep. The dialogue is fantastic from the locals. The comedy is amazing. And it's not meant to be comedic, but just the things are going wrong in life. I'm going to make, lemonade out of lemons or whatever. It was really good. Jeff Bridges was as good as usual. Just keep putting in Westerns. I didn't know what this movie was. I actually thought it was a Western. I didn't realize it was modern day. Chris Pine was really good.
Ooh, love him.
Ben Foster was really good. And Tim actually saw a major connection to this and Moonlight.
I did indeed. I did love it. If a film that is nominated for Best Picture can be called underrated, I think this movie is underrated.
Yeah.
And the connection with Moonlight, I kept thinking, I saw Hell or High Water after I saw Moonlight. I think maybe this could be flimsy, is just that you're talking about men who are, again, still coming to grips with their identity and what it is to be a man, and being a man in two very different settings, but also in choosing to do so in a world where they're not necessarily abiding by the laws either. And they're sort of outside the norms, but still defining themselves outside those norms. And in very different places, one's in Atlanta.
And law enforcement ends up agreeing, like with Hell or High Water, like that what they're doing isn't necessarily wrong.
One's in Atlanta, one's in West Texas, two very different locales, but very similar in some ways. That there is a sort of undercurrent of pushing the law and going outside the boundaries of the law, all in an effort to, I think, create a life for oneself and carve out an identity for oneself. Because you understand the motivation for Chris Pine and his character, which is it's not dissimilar from the motivation of the main character in Moonlight, which is he just wants to leave. He wants to break the pattern of his past, and he feels that he has been shackled and his family has been shackled by society and certain, just an ongoing cycle that he's trapped in. And he wants to break that cycle, and he's going to break that cycle through whatever means
you need
necessary.
To use crime to get to legitimacy.
Yeah, and that's kind of what's going on with Moonlight as well. You have a person who is going to break the cycle of his existence and break the cycle he's in by stepping outside the bounds of the law and in this sort of lawless land. So I did think there were parallels between the two.
No, I really enjoyed it. I'm shocked you didn't see it.
I've been busy.
You'd love it. No, it's like it's right up your alley.
Right up my alley, right? Yeah, I'm gonna.
Oh my God.
That and Arrival, and Nocturnal, I have to say.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I did. Were you done with that one?
I guess so. Yeah.
I'd say. I mean, it's
really good. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be good. It was really good. The dialogue was just.
I think my favorite line of the year is the favorite exchange is when. Because I'm a big fan of Dr. Pepper and Mr. Pibb, so he sends in his brother to get him a Dr. Pepper, and he comes out with Mr. Pibb, and he says, "Mr. Pibb is for blanks," and he says, "Well, drink up then." So,
I'm gonna love this movie.
It's very
screaming
good.
my name.
No, it's Breaking Bad aspects to it. I mean, it's very good, and just Jeff Bridges plays. What is he, like the sheriff or something? I mean, he's what's the Texas Ranger, right? Mm-hmm. Plays a Texas Ranger, and he's with his partner is like Indian, Mexican, and like he'll just the entire movie he's just making jokes about Indian jokes. He just destroys the kid, and then he's like, "Well, I'm a Mexican too." He goes, "Yeah, I haven't got to that yet. I'm gonna do it. And there's just the movie moves along very well. It's just a very well done movie, and I think it'll be another movie that people will be watching for some time of all these, because it's just so everything's conversational. The story makes sense. It took me a while to realize. It moves very quick.
The pace is great.
Yeah, the pace is great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It drops like right into a robbery. You know what I mean? And then the thing I love about it is that the robberies are not professional. I love that when the people walk in with the ski masks,
right? And
they're like yelling at the assistant, and the assistant's like, "I can't even open the safe," and they're like, "You shut up," And then they're like, "Well, the branch manager's coming in at 9." And he's like, "All right, we'll wait here." It's like they don't have a plan.
But this is everything you're against.
What do you mean everything? No, it's a good movie. It's well, I hope we're all against bank robbery, and families losing their lands. I don't know. I don't know what else I'm against. I mean, I said it's about to get me a gun, but it's very good. So we did our best pictures. Let's quickly move through.
I do want to say that, I think only the actor is up for this, but I wasn't going to see Captain Fantastic because I just thought it was like Power Rangers.
That was such a great movie.
And he said no. Tim said it's really good.
No, I saw it too.
I watched it. Yeah, but Tim's the authority on all things movie.
Just shut up. Let him.
And I told Matt I didn't want to see it because I thought it was like a superhero kind of thing. And he was like, no. Oh my God, I loved everything about it. Like, I thought it was so good.
It was so eccentric. It was just, I mean, other than having the dead mother in the truck and them like patting her head.
Right. That was a little weird, but I just thought it was so life affirming. So good. And like, you talk about underrated movies, like I think that's one of them. Like, just because of the title, I wasn't even going to go see it.
I would love Viggo Mortensen to win because it would bring this movie up. He's 80-1 and there's nothing else bringing this movie up. It is such a classic Oscar movie, isn't it?
It is. I don't think there are many actors who could have pulled off the performance that he did. As I was watching, I was like, this movie was made for him.
Yeah,
it's just a penis.
Perfect. Actually, I think that is what you told me to see it for Full Frontal.
Yeah, it was totally affirming. I mean, all the scenes were well written.
Now, to pause for a moment, to go back to the question with which you opened this podcast, you said, was it a good year for movies or a bad year for movies? When you think about Captain Fantastic and you think about, for us, Hell or High Water and for you, Hacksaw Ridge and others.
Fences. Lest we not forget.
Maybe it wasn't quite as down a year as we initially thought.
Okay, maybe. Maybe we're just being hard because now we're
the
Siskel and Eberts of...
What was the thing on Howard Stern when like people did what was the first award show? Is it the Golden Globes?
Yeah.
And they were ruining, they were calling it Hidden Fences.
Hidden Fences.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, see, even they know that the movie's awful.
People don't even know what it...
Yeah, I think like 14 times they said it during that night. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But Captain Fantastic came out in the summer too. So that's why if you were looking at this in June or July, you're like, oh, we've got, a handful of movies that are really terrific so far. So
yeah, anyway. I just watched it this week only because of you. So
there's like parts where it makes you tear. It's like, it's so good.
Yeah.
And then Frank Langella like showing up in it is unbelievable.
And but you get it. You're like,
you sort of get
like I like the movies where you feel both sides of, like, my very favorite movie of all times, which was talked about, American History X. Like, I feel both sides. You agree with both sides. Yeah. Well, you probably don't, but like, they make sense when they're talking about their thing. And I think that Mortensen did a great job of making you be like, yeah, he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, and then they're like, don't come. And I love the scene when they're in the truck and he's just like, we're going,
Right.
And then they're like, yeah, the kids are going.
And they want to be with him.
And that kid, the oldest kid, looked like the oldest Hanson kid. Notice that? He kind of does.
Well, now that you mention it.
Yeah, he kind of does.
Are you admitting that you know Hanson?
What do you mean? Tim went to see them last week.
I asked you not to share that with anyone.
They're playing like death metal now. Grind metal. European death metal.
Your kind of music.
No, but it was just such a good movie. And I think all the lessons from it, I love the scene when he goes, was it his sister? It was her sister. Or when he goes to the suburbs and they stay overnight with either his family or her family, and
Catherine Hahn.
Yeah, Catherine Hahn has the scene where they're like, you have to send them to school. They can't live this way. And he calls up her kids and they don't know anything. They're just buried in their video games. They can't tell you about the Bill of Rights or whatever. And then he calls up his kids and they tell you about it. And he's like, no, tell me what it's really about.
Right.
And they get deep. And you kind of go between what's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And he owns that movie. I mean, he's just
I don't know why people aren't talking about it.
Yeah, I guess it's just kind of, it's hidden. It didn't get the top nominee. So what we can do is we'll hit on some of the movies that weren't there. We'll quickly go through, but that were worth mention because Best Director, it looks like La La Land.
Yeah, I think that's a given.
He won the DGA, which is the predictor.
These are following. There's not a lot of other movies snuck in there.
I wish Tom Ford had gotten nominated for Nocturnal Animals because I think he did
that was such a good movie.
I mean, Tom Ford
I gotta see that.
He's a genius.
The movie is just genius because it's like a story within a story. Because the Jake Gyllenhaal character was a long lost. I guess they were married. He was married to Amy Adams, and she left him.
Don't give it away from me.
Okay, but he writes a novel, and then he sends it to her. What, like 20 years later? And then the movie picks up. The movie becomes the novel as she's reading it, and it is harrowing. It is.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's brutal, but that should have been.
You want to talk about brutal?
L. Yeah, Tim loved the opening scene.
I loved everything about that movie. Everything. You hated it?
No, not at all.
She's number 2, so it's worth talking.
I think, well, she won the Golden Globe for Best Actress, but...
Like, I would be really happy to see her win.
I could see her win.
Best Actress.
And it would be...
Instead of Emma Stone.
It would not be undeserved for her to win. I just had a hard time with the subject matter, witnessing it. For me, that it was... Perhaps I'm a little bit more conventional than I even realize sometimes.
So it's like your Manchester by the Sea.
It was screwed up. But I knew that going into it. It's just hard for me to experience.
Does it make it worse?
Knowing what you're going into? Going into it.
Oh, that's better. See, like I knew what I was going into with La La Land.
Do you know what you're going into with Elle?
I do. That's why I want to see it. Very similar to La La Land.
She gives
I'm just kidding.
An outstanding performance. It's a transcendent performance.
Yeah. Well, she's number 2. I mean,
and what's interesting is that people I talk to who actually will go see a subtitled movie are like, she was like flat. She was like emotionless. She was like, I was like, yeah,
she was great in her other 5 French speaking roles. That's what I love. Yeah. It's like,
but I just thought she was so good. And like, just when you think you're figuring it out, like something else crazy happens and you're like, holy shit, did that really just happen?
Is she this year's Marion Cotillard?
Better.
She is fantastic.
I would love her to win.
Yeah, I mean, the Golden Globes, it's a different voting body. It's the Hollywood Foreign Press votes for the Golden Globes, so therefore foreign actors have a better chance. But I wouldn't be surprised if they call her name at the Oscars. And it would not, as I say, would not be undeserved if they did.
Yeah.
I loved, and it's funny, the Best Actress category added a bunch of movies that you had to see that weren't in others, which was tough.
Yes.
I loved Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie. That's another movie that could have been nominated for Best Picture.
I think it should have been. I think it absolutely, like, Hell or High Water I loved.
Wait, I love Jackie too. Do we all like one movie?
Mm-hmm.
Made me think of current times.
Wow.
It even putting aside her performance and the subject matter, the way it is filmed gorgeously.
Gorgeously.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like in your face documentary. Like you never have the full head. It's like right in. Oh my God. And then like,
and I love all things Natalie Portman. So I knew I was going to like it.
Same team from Black Swan too. And it had that feel. It was dark.
And I love it.
And you never think of that time being dark, you know?
It taught me something because I don't follow like the whole Kennedy thing. But I always felt that she was more of like a Stepford wife kind of role. Like I'd never pictured her to be so strong and so in command and so...
Yeah, and I think that's
so for me, it was a learning.
That movie didn't need to be seen in the theater, but I was so happy I saw it in the theater.
Yeah,
it was so
and like looking at her, like I know it's Natalie Portman, but I felt like her face like almost morphed into
And
Jackie.
I had no idea about the voice.
Was so good.
I didn't know the voice was like that either. Like that affected, like like where it was just, and also. 2 under the radar roles for Billy Crudup this year. He was really good as the journalist in that movie, and he was really good in 20th Century Women.
Yeah, I mean Jackie. The thrust of it is tremendous, just because you're dealing with you get to witness a person trying to control an uncontrollable situation. It's a leviathan, and the give and take between is she being shaped by the circumstances, or is she shaping the circumstances? Right. And
the Camelot thing. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I had no idea that it was like created like that.
I know, I didn't either. So that was a lot of.
She's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to write any of that.
Right.
It's just like
the fact that she was so commanding, I was like, oh my God, was she really like this?
Oh my God.
And I called my mother and my grandmother, and they were like, yeah.
And it was so cold when you're not meant to be in Hyannisport in like January.
Right.
It was so I just absolutely love that movie. And then her decisions, like that happening, then having to get on the plane and talk about like, well, how are we going to do the funeral? We have to move out of our home.
Right. Like all of these things are happening when like she doesn't even have time to mourn her husband, who she knows is, and
who she knew his like,
right.
his foibles,
Yeah.
And so, but yet she wants him to be honored.
Correctly.
For what he was. Like that should have been, I mean, there were 9 like you can have 10. That should have been a best picture.
That should have been. I agree.
It was so unfair that wasn't, because Emma Stone and Isabel Hubbard is in there. Like Natalie's not going to win. She should win for that. Or something should win for that movie. Like I hope that doesn't get lost.
I think it's in costume design as well.
Yeah, and
which I know you don't like that category.
Kind of stinks.
But I thought she was excellent. But I do think that it is getting credit where, like a Captain Fantastic, no one's talking about. Yeah. People are talking about Jackie.
I was like so engrossed in the theater.
I was too.
Like locked in.
And my girlfriend, who loves all things Kennedy, didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interring the baby's body, putting them there, and her making him a bigger figure.
Yeah.
Than even he probably should have been, and that's like. By making those decisions in that 1 week, his mythology is created for all of eternity in some ways.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and knowing that he would cheat on, I mean, it was fantastic. Anyone else see Florence Foster Jenkins?
Yep.
Yes.
Interesting. Little goofy. Hugh Grant did a good job.
Little goofy, but I mean, Meryl Streep can do no wrong.
No, she just
I mean, to be in a film where you're singing opera badly on purpose.
That this was real is amazing. Do you remember when Hugh Grant was on? He was on Howard Stern, and it was like this movie last year. Like he was on there, and you're like, wait, what's that?
Florence what?
Yeah, she was this bad, and it shows you. I had said it shows you the power of posses.
Yes.
That posses are with you. And then I love the scenes when it's like, oh, she's going to perform at Carnegie Hall. And then all of a sudden her world-renowned singing coach is like, I think I'm going to be in Florida.
Right.
Wait,
like
when?
No
we'll work around
to,
it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Let me know when it's going to be. And how she pulled in the pianist.
Yeah.
Tim. She pulled in the pianist and like he had to keep going. And what a goofy character he was. He was very good.
Yeah, he was. I just really... And I was like, I don't want to really say it, but I have to. And I know I'll like it because it's Meryl Streep, but it's a podcast. But again, it was kind of like a La La Land where like, a couple of scenes in, I'm like, I'm digging this. This is good.
I did like it again. It's a movie my parents would have loved. I would say something about that movie, it could have been really dark.
Yes.
They could have made a really
how they introduced the
movie.
Syphilis thing.
Right.
Yeah. How am I still
like
living
glazed
60 years
over.
later?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad they made the movie they did because I did enjoy it, but like they could have made a really dark movie.
Yeah.
But again, that was another one that was supposed to be like a happy, funny, but it had a really deep line of sadness, to it. So maybe that's just my manic.
No, it was. I mean, it was obviously.
Well, maybe I'm thinking that too because I saw it one evening, and then the next evening I went to see Sunset Boulevard, the musical on Broadway, and they're kind of the same story. Oh. Very similar story.
Yeah, the Hugh Grant character. That was good. The last one I had trouble understanding why it got in there. Maybe it was the import of the story, but Loving.
Oh God,
Ruth Negga.
Oh God, I thought it was awful.
I feel like we know what Loving is, right? And they almost went on the legacy of what Loving is and didn't create a movie.
Did you not like it either?
I didn't like it.
Oh my God, we agree on this one too?
He's a good director, right?
Mm-hmm. I did not like Loving. It was just, they took a fascinating subject and made it so boring.
So boring. And like the reason I didn't like Hidden Figures was the same reason I didn't like Loving, but that one was too much and one wasn't enough.
I'm going to try and give Rufnega some credit in that her performance grows much stronger as the movie goes on, and she takes over the movie by the second half. And again, it's a situation where I think it could have easily been a throwaway role. Someone else maybe wouldn't have done as much with the role, but she did a great job. And I kept thinking she's got wide eyes and a really strong spine, and that's what comes out throughout the entire movie. And she does, in a quiet way, she overtakes it and owns it.
And apparently the real woman was, subdued and kind of didn't want hoo-ha.
Well, another one, like Saru's brother. The guy gets killed in a car accident 7 years later. After all that trouble? And then the other thing, like, why have a comedian play the lawyer?
And
he was out of it. Like, it was almost like him trying to be like Pete Campbell from Mad Men.
And he did play it. He played it for laughs, which it just didn't fit with the whole.
You see? Wait, what's
By the way, going back in Forrest Foster Jenkins, Hugh Grant's character marries his living girlfriend a year after Forrest Foster Jenkins passes away.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, good for her.
Well, I had a hard part with that because he did kind of give up his career, though, right? To be with her.
But did he have a career? I think that was.
Do any of us?
No, that he disclosed
did
that she discloses that she knew that he maybe was not really destined for stardom. So it was a mutually affirming relationship.
Yeah, mutually assured destruction.
And he says that we have fun, don't we? We have a nice existence.
Well, and I mean, if he was like how he is in the movie, I mean, he was very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And that she was supportive because, she knew that he was doing whatever he was doing. And that was weird when she comes running into the house and it's like, uh-oh. Yeah. But that Loving, I was like, oof.
It was a tough one. And again, it was another one where I was sort of falling asleep in parts, and Melanie watched it. And of course, we were able to sync up on so few movies that she's like watching Loving, and like she's all into it. And I'm like, well, you haven't seen the others and that's not your fault.
And I was like, that's so important. Like, why are they making it so flat and awful?
Yeah. It was just an account.
Hidden Figures was like over the top. And I was like, come on.
Yeah. They could have met halfway on both of them.
Right.
So we went through the other ones. Nocturnal Animals is on there for Michael Shannon. He is fantastic in it.
He's great.
The amazing thing with this movie is Michael Shannon is a best supporting actor, and he plays somebody in the novel that the story is about.
Okay.
My friend shared with me a brilliant insight, so I have to give him credit. It's not mine. I mean, we're talking about Nocturnal Animals a little bit too much, but he believes that his theory is that Michael Shannon is the embodiment of the novel, because the Amy Adams character is really, she thinks that she's the wife in the book, but she's not. She's actually the villain. And Jake Gyllenhaal is actually the wife because he's the one who suffered the heartbreak and the offense, and and that the Michael Shannon character is channeling the novel, because that is the way that Jake Gyllenhaal actually exacts his revenge. And Michael Shannon shows up to say, we're going to get it done. We're going to
exact our cancer, revenge. So I'm going all out.
So really, I mean, that was a brilliant insight by my friend. But he's great in everything he does. And you could have made an argument for almost anybody. Nocturnal Animals could have gotten a nomination.
And that poor husband, the Amy Adams husband in the movie, the Winklevoss.
Yes, Armie Hammer.
He can never play a character and not be typecast. He's just an asshole. He was
in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. He was good.
I know, but I don't even know what. I just feel like he's always the.
He was the Lone Ranger.
I feel like he's always the Winklevi.
Oh, you're really going back.
He was the Lone Ranger.
But he's always the Winklevi. Mm-hmm. He's always he has that look of the guy. And I just love when, like, she calls him to check in and he's like, I'm just getting on the elevator. I'm back at our favorite hotel. And he's like, I'm going to this floor. And she's like, that's not our regular floor. Yeah, it was, someone else took the room. I was really angry. I yelled at them. And then all of a sudden she hears on the phone and the elevator man goes, Madame? And she knew that he was cheating. She suspected he was. It's so good. So
for Arrival, 20th Century Women, Nocturnal Animals,
The Lobster.
And what do I see first? Oh, and Hell or High Water. Those are the ones that I've missed.
You got to see Hell or High Water immediately. Hell or High Water, The Arrival. But see it before the Oscars, though.
Yeah, no, I will. Wow.
No, Hell or High Water, the Arrival, they're both on iTunes and probably for rental, too.
Yeah, I have them. I've downloaded them. I just didn't get a chance.
The Lobster is like fun. Mm-hmm. That is a fun.
That's another movie that could have been nominated for Best Picture.
It probably could have, right? It would have helped it a lot too because it's. I kept using the word. It's absurdist.
Yeah, it's absurdist black comedy.
It's just so damn funny, but it's like sad, and it's like a future world where being married is the only thing that makes you a citizen. It's almost like having your citizen papers by being married, and the minute you're single, you're sent to a place for 45 days to try. You have to get reacquainted with somebody, and you got to get back in a relationship. And then at the end of 45 days, you're turned into an animal of your choosing. And so you'll just see like Shetland ponies running away when their 45 days are up, and you see people almost. And they also, I think, have to have weird, like, shared afflictions in order to get together. Mm-hmm. It's like this one character who was great in, was the Vikander.
Oh, it's,
last year.
Ben Winslow.
Yeah, oh my God, he's so good. Mm-hmm. And he plays the character who falls in love with, the Danish girl. He falls in love with, I'm like losing all my names here.
Alicia Vikander.
Alicia
Vikander, but who's she with? He was in
Redmayne. Eddie Redmayne.
I'm like, what's my century? What's my
right? Yeah.
And so he's the one who falls in love with Redmayne as a woman.
Oh, okay.
He's so funny in this, and like he gives himself nosebleeds because he wants to fall in love with a woman who's in there who has nosebleeds. It's really good. And then when you go to malls, like cops come up to you if you look like you're single. It's like it is such a funny movie. 20th Century Women was. I had it on while I was doing other stuff so I could get through it. I liked it because it was made by a guy who was a former punk musician, Mike Mills. And he's like one of these weird, like sensitive punk guys who grew up in like the Reagan times with punk. And so it's good. Annette Bening's really good in it. And she's like an older woman who has a child at 40, and so like her son's now 15, and she lives in this house with like 5 other people who pay rent to live there. One, Billy Crudup, Elle Fanning, is that her name? And then another actress of note, and they're all trying to teach the kid about sex, and it's weird, but it's worth seeing. It's a well put together movie. It's a very sensitive movie, and everything apparently comes back to Mike Mills' like growing up and how he dealt with his parents. I kind of hate when people do that, but
right. Well, you have to see Elle, and you have to see Light Between Oceans, and I'll see Hell or High Water next on my list.
And you got to see Arrival too.
Yeah,
you have to see the Best Pictures.
Yeah, I
will. Did anyone see Silence?
No.
Well, just don't say anything.
Oh,
that means we didn't see anything. Did we? Oh my God!
I feel like all the other categories now, like once we've talked about the movies, like they're a given.
They're all La La Land.
Like
costume, film editing.
No. I mean like Best Actress, Best Supporting, Best Director. Like director's obviously La La Land. Best Picture is going to be La La Land, I guess. Obviously Viola Davis.
Well, so let's see. Our Gold Derby.
And I guess that Mahershala, whatever.
Mahershala.
There's always someone we can't pronounce that he does.
Well, dude, what's his name?
Inarritu.
Alejandro.
Alejandro. No, the real contest to watch, I think, is Best Actor, because Casey Affleck had been sweeping all of the awards
The odds.
up until the SAG Awards. And the SAG Awards are a good but not perfect indicator, because there are more people in SAG who vote than there are members of the Academy who vote. So Denzel
He needs this more than Denzel.
No, I'll be pissed if he wins this over Denzel.
I think that's the closest race, is between Denzel Washington and Casey Affleck.
Watch it be Ryan Gosling.
He's third. I mean, he was good though. But
he was good, and he did things that.
And Best Actress, I could see a surprise there. I could see Isabelle Huppert winning over.
Can she? Does she speak English though? Can she give the speech?
Yep.
Okay. Is that movie that's not in English, right?
No,
subtitles, French. So good, you've got to see it.
But here's the other thing about Denzel Washington, which is, I think, perhaps a parallel, which is he won Best Supporting Actor for Glory in 1989. Should have won Best Actor at least one, if not two other times after that. However, his first Best Actor win also happened because the frontrunner sort of imploded, which was Russell Crowe when he had the BAFTA Awards incident. So Russell Crowe was nominated and thought there was going to be back-to-back wins when he was nominated for A Beautiful Mind. And then he had the incident at the BAFTA Awards, so then everything turned on him, and Denzel Washington was able to sneak in and snag it for Training Day. Kind of similar here, where you have Casey Affleck, who's been out in front the whole time, but I think from what you read, he's being dogged by these
sexual assault type deals.
Well, not I think it was, to be fair, I think it was harassment, not assault.
Harassment.
So that seems to be maybe catching up to him. So then Denzel Washington could sweep in and snag it this time too.
But I don't think it would be, if Denzel wins, I don't think it's because
no, I'm not saying
the
that,
other
no.
guy.
He deserved to win for Training Day too.
I think the problem is Casey's shot.
Yeah.
Like Denzel's like LeBron. You know, like he's going to be in the finals every year.
And
right.
A point that I also think that's helping Denzel Washington is that he directed himself, which is
right.
I
like
think
LeBron.
It's only happened.
Put the team together.
I mean, Laurence Olivier did it. He directed himself to a Best Actor, and possibly one other person. I mean, some have done it for nominations, like Warren Beatty did it with Reds, and some others. That may be it. But so for him to actually direct himself to a Best Actor is pretty impressive.
Did anyone see any of the?
Good.
No, he was very good. The only final thing I would say, because they're different films or features, documentary. I actually saw 3 of them. Actually, no. Yeah, I did see 3 of them.
You guys made fun of me last year because that's what I brought to the table.
Shorts is like, come on.
I did not see any of the documentaries.
Wait,
Wiener's
OJ Made in America.
Wiener's not nominated this year, is it?
Unfortunately.
No, I did see Wiener.
That was a good one. You didn't see OJ Made in America?
No.
Oh my god.
But that's obviously gonna, like, that's another one that, like, is gonna win because
you got to put up $900 to win $200. Like, that's how much it's
right.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is the minority is in America are leading the way with documentaries. You got OJ Made in America. Second is The 13th, about how slavery has just been replaced by the incarceration. Number 3, I Am Not Your Negro, which a lot of people are talking about.
What about Ove? Isn't that in there?
Yeah, but that's not a documentary. That's based on those books, which I never read. Has anyone ever read those? Did you read those? Everyone like swears by those books. And then I actually did see number 5 on the list. I'm shocked Gleason didn't get in here, but I saw, like, how does Gleason not get in? That is like the most well put together.
It was
Hoop Dreams.
It was
Hoop Dreams.
No, Hoop Dreams.
It was good, but like Matt said, "Oh my god, how hard did you cry?" I'm like, "No, I didn't."
It ruined my week. Like I was.
Yeah,
just
he was like shattered over that. So
I can't be who you want me to be, Dad.
Maybe you like built it up for me to be something that
I don't know how Life Animated got in there over Gleason though. The story of the the kid with autism. That's where we've gotten, folks. 2 hours 20 minutes in. Life Animated ahead of Gleason. Autism against ALS. Come on.
I don't know. They're both heavy hitters.
What the hell is Fire at Sea? How did that get in there? I don't even know what that is.
You're not allowed to see any of those until you see Elle. That's it.
I also have not seen any of the animated nominees, which is unusual for me. So
You don't really
I'm
see
growing
those,
up.
right? Do
I do, because I usually go with my nieces. They'll bring me along to a
How
movie
long
or
are those movies? Like 20 minutes? And then you
No,
guys
not the
are out?
animated shorts.
Gotcha.
The best animated. So I haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
I never see them. I'll have to wait till Liam's old enough, and
Yeah.
I'll take him.
So maybe
Is it like midnight now? Have like everyone has stopped listening
No,
to
he's
us?
asleep.
We're
Don't forget his door. So I have to open Liam's door. Tell them I said bye.
make sure Tim leaves.
she didn't put the mint
Tell
on Tim's
Tim we
pillow.
didn't change the sheets.
All right.
Oh dear, folks. It is 10:46.
Wow.
This
All right.
was real, but this felt more seamless than past years. We had a couple of
couple sleepers.
Yeah, we had a couple sleepers. We might have gone off the deep end where I saw Tim's eyes roll a little bit on some of these.
So I will say, though, that go back to the question you posed at the beginning. As we've gone through it,
There was some good movies. You were right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Everything's reward. I mean, everything gives you some reward. Like if it's getting nominated, were there any in this year that you saw where you were like, they don't even have a fingerprint on this?
Loving.
No, it's on it. I'm saying
Oh, I thought you meant that shouldn't be there.
Sing Street.
Sing Street. Okay.
Yeah.
And Light Between Oceans. God,
Street,
the acting was just heart-wrenching.
It's weird. With those actors, they're just like, we're getting in there. Jayme saw it in October. We're not allowing it.
Yeah, and I was like,
She
that's
tweeted
it.
she Facebook posted,
I
this is in
Facebook
the
posted,
Oscars.
this is it, and then, yeah. You say it, and you tell me that she's not deserving.
This is the hard part I have, though. I'm so locked in to get to this podcast. And then when it's over, I like gain 50 pounds of not watching movies.
Right. And then it's like after the Oscars,
doesn't count.
there's not a good movie out for 6 months.
The Fate of the Furious comes out in May. So The Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, are there any
it's
good
moving.
movies this year? What are we expecting? Anything? Not the Fate and Furious, but like...
Tim would know that.
Wait, is that a mix of Fast and Furious and like
Oh, no, it's
Marvel?
It's the next episode of The Fast and
okay.
Furious.
So that actually is
The name of the
a
movie.
Captain Fantastic type.
That is, yeah.
No,
Right,
that's
okay.
Fast and Furious.
Right, meaning I won't want to say it.
No.
Right.
No, completely though. Like at least Captain Fant.
I thought Captain Fantastic was a superhero movie. That's why I wasn't going to say
yeah,
it.
it did seem like that.
And
Maybe
then
that hurt
Tim
it.
was like, no, it's
Wait,
not.
why was that the title? Do we know?
Because he was
Yeah, but why?
their captain and he was fantastic.
Maybe the title really hurt that one.
I think the title did because I would, if it wasn't for Tim, I would have never even thought about
It
it.
would have been Oscar contender if it was just Vigo being Vigo.
Oh, yeah.
That
Full
goes back
frontal.
to when they released The Madness of King George. It was in Europe. It was released as The Madness of King George III, and they didn't do that in the United States because they were worried everyone would not go see it because they did not see the first two.
Oh.
He's always got to just know everything.
But so, our final thing, when you see a million movies over like 2 months, the previews, let's talk about that real quick. Dunkirk, what the...
Oh my God, I'm not seeing it.
It's like The Dark Knight Returns to
I
Dunkirk.
said to my husband, I said, I don't know if Dunkirk is a country, a state, a person, but I'm not going to see it.
Oh dear God, they have us surrounded.
That was the worst thing I could have said to my historical husband because then he had to
Yeah,
go on
it's
a
the most
whole
important
big
thing of our
about,
future.
Right. I'm annoyed by that. The Shack, I can't wait. One of my favorite books.
Oh my God.
One of my favorite books of all time.
This is the one I told him about, The Shack. So what the fuck is The Shack?
It is brilliant.
What do you mean?
And why are you cursing on here and I'm not allowed to?
Because it's the 2.5 hour rule.
Oh, okay. You have to read the book. I can't tell you what it's about.
Well, that's a problem for the movie.
Is this
Because
about
it looks...
Shaquille O'Neal?
No, you saw it in the previews. The one where like Tim McGraw shows up in the shack and his
Octavia
daughter's dead.
Spencer.
Oh,
And he ends up in heaven or something. Like
You've
what?
got-
Did Mitch
Really?
Albom write this?
What
It's
the
like Mitch
hell
Albom,
is
but it's
that?
not. Read the book. Just do me a favor. I'll
Monday-
see all those movies you want me to say. You've got to read the book before you see the movie.
Can I do neither?
No.
Mondays with McGraw. Like, what is that? And then then there's the other one, which I don't know why they're tailoring these to me seeing the Oscar movies, but the one with is it the guy who was in Scary Movie? The main actor. It's not Chris
I've
Pine.
seen him.
They're trying to make him mainstream, and he's in the movie with his niece, who's like the math genius.
Oh, yeah,
Didn't
you
you see
Gifted?
this?
Gifted.
Chris Evans. That's Captain America, man.
Oh, is that? Yeah, but he was in something else before that.
Captain America, Captain Fantastic. See how it worked for me?
Chris Evans. Scary movie. Yeah, that's where he started.
I'll see that. I'll see Gifted.
Yeah, but it was just
I will not see Dunkirk.
But do not put this garbage in my Oscar movie selections.
Right.
Can you please
give
put
me
good
better stuff? The Shack was a movie, a book that really moved me and got me thinking.
Really?
And you need to read it before you see it. Please.
It looks ridiculous. It looks
it's like 20 pages. You can read it in a half hour.
It looks like that remember the Robin Williams movie where he went through heaven and hell to find his wife?
What Dreams May Come. I loved.
Is it like that?
Do not talk bad about Robin Williams or that movie.
Because you just love Cuba Gooding Jr., that's why.
No. I love Robin Williams.
I still don't know what that. There's some movies I probably
What
have to go back
Dreams May
and
Come.
see.
Oh my God. I cry again just thinking about that.
So don't see the Shack too.
Could you read it? You don't have to see it. Could you read it? It'll take you 20 minutes. Please?
A book that takes you 20 minutes was made into a movie?
Yeah.
No, I'm just
Polar
saying.
Express was.
It's a good. Thank you, Tim. Please.
Sure.
You just lied on.
No, I'll
national-
read it. I'll read it.
Are there any other,
Podcasting.
our final point, are there any other Oscar movies, though, that we're expecting for the next year? Do we know anything that's in? Because didn't we sort of know Jackie was coming? It was like, oh, the Black Swan group.
I think Terrence Malick has a movie that's coming out that got delayed, so that could be good. But otherwise, no, actually, I don't know what's coming out.
Do we usually know now or no?
I don't think we do.
They do sometimes.
We don't. We don't.
Oh.
Well, no,
You
I mean,
do,
the
because
cognizant,
you're
the
too
cognizant.
used
I used to follow it more closely, but no.
Oh my God, Oscar 2018 predictions, Gold Derby. Are you freaking kidding me? And it's an ad.
Say.
Really hopeful. Children's Act, The Yellowbirds, Emma Thompson, Jennifer Aniston, Sissy for Old Gun and the Gun. This is sad. Like, Gold Derby turns into a comments board.
Yes, because they
For
let regular
2018.
people talk about
It's
it.
just,
Yeah.
it's like weirdo.
We turned you on to Gold Derby, I think.
Yeah, I never heard of it. It's
Yeah.
been the organizing principle of our podcast.
Yeah. And I like anytime I can gamble. So
Tim, who's going to win the NBA championship?
Cleveland Cavaliers.
Really? Even without Love?
It's going to be
Being at full.
Cavaliers, Spurs in the finals.
Really? They're going to be okay.
And Western Conference Finals is going to be Spurs, Grizzlies.
wow, he came to that.
Good thing we weren't recording there because he just hung himself out there. No, I'm just
Really?
kidding. No, we are.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
He also said Elle's going to win Best Picture. So.
She could win
I'm just
Best
kidding. All right.
Actress. Stop it.
All right, guys. That might have been, I'll be shocked to see in our third annual if that was the longest or not. It's probably the longest, though.
We're usually over 2.
last year we were a little shorter because I was ill.
And we had another podcast to do while you were ill.
But yeah.
It's always the same. I saw the Facebook alerts come up. The last 2 years, it was released on February 15th.
Wow.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, edit it. Get the bad stuff out and get it up, and we'll see if anybody actually listens.
No, it's going right to Trump. So.
You know what?
He's going to check with people. He's going to go do a
He
press
can't let it
conference.
go. You just can't let it go.
What is this narrative? Can't let it go.
Let go, let God.
Tim, did you know when we were at our meeting today that he went up there for an hour and 20 minutes? Did you see the post cap of this?
No, I didn't see it.
He went up for an hour, 20 minutes when he was supposed to be announcing a new labor secretary
Okay, I'm turning off.
and went after.
Can you turn
the world.
this off?
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trump.